What is up, Spikes? Alex and Elliot here with that new Capenna set review that way too many people asked for. We need one like to do this.
Yeah.
So many likes to do this.
Well, I kind of gave up the scoop on that one too. I responded with the fact that we were planning on doing this anyway, and that everybody that liked the tweet was a fool.
Yeah.
So.
Well, all I know that Spike was really mad that we had so many people respond. We only needed the one, and then people just kept liking the tweet over and over. It's a bad time. So anyway, Elliot, what are we doing tonight?
Well, we have a video set review coming up with me, you, and Jim. Coming out where we went over all of the non-legendaries and the non-commander set cards from New Capenna. But we've got some other cards, some pretty important ones for the format that we play around here, namely the legendaries and the commander set cards. And we're gonna, just give it a quick rundown. Tell y'all what we think. Today.
Sounds good to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it sounds really good to me. So, speaking of good to me, let's just start up with it. We're going to start with the non-commander legendaries from the main set. So, I think that first one, if I remember correctly, is Vivian on the Hunt. Does that sound right?
Sure, we can start with Vivian on the Hunt.
So tell me a little bit about what you see here, Elliot, because I know you're pretty excited about this one.
Alex, I see a 6-mana, non-artifact, non-creature birthing pod.
Birthing pod.
That's what I see here. Mm-hmm. This +2 ability is literally just birthing pod. I guess we can go over it for people that aren't watching, just listening, I guess. But Vivian on the Hunt. 4 and 2 green, legendary planeswalker Vivian, starts with 4 loyalty. Alex, we got a couple comments in the chat that you have to turn yourself
I'm working on that right now. I'm pretty sure I'm about as close to top as I can get without being over the top.
Cool pog. And so, yes, 4 starting loyalty. Her +2 is just birthing pods. Text, you may sacrifice a creature. If you do, search your library for a creature card with mana value equal to 1 plus the sacrificed creature's mana value. Put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. It has 2 other abilities that I don't really care about, but they are +1, mill 5 cards. Put any number of creature cards milled this way into your hand. I mean, pretty good as well if you're not potting something. And -1, create a 4/4 green Rhino Warrior creature token.
Yeah, so not exactly an ultimate there, but just some consistent value all the way up and down this card, you'd say, yeah?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no ultimate on this, but again, I see this card and I see 6 mana birthing pod.
Yeah, I think
I think is kind of nuts.
Yeah, I think the 6 mana value is probably going to hold this back from being as impactful as we might expect the abilities to make it, especially when we're going +2 to pod. That's great because it means you're going to be generating that value, but it doesn't go anywhere. There's no ultimate on this that really makes me say, oh yeah, I'm going to get a payoff for doing birthing pod, shenanigans like, get a bunch of stuff back in my yard or have a big overrun or something like that. And so I just don't see this being a hugely impactful card outside of decks that just want to do this kind of thing.
Right. One thing that I will note is there are now lines to birthing pod with this card using Arena Rector, which is insane.
Okay.
So if you have like a sack outlet or just a way to kill Arena Rector, you play Arena Rector, kill it, get Vivian. If you have a 3 mana card, let's say your commander might be 3 mana value, you can plus Vivian, sacrificing your commander to get Felidar Guardian, to blink Vivian, to sacrifice Felidar Guardian, to get Karmic Guide, to bring back Felidar Guardian, to blink Vivian, to sacrifice Vivian, Felidar Guardian, to get Kiki Jiki, to tap Kiki Jiki, to Karmic Guide, to Felidar Guardian, Kiki Jiki to win the game.
Okay, that hurt a little, but I think I followed it. So that makes sense. It sounds a little bit like some of the stuff we've seen out of Jim's decks recently, like that minced garlic line where we had the returning and keep coming in stuff going on. As BC Deano says, Marath.
Marath is 3 CMC. Yeah. There's somebody in this set that is a legendary creature that happens to have 3 mana value.
Oh yeah, well maybe we'll get to them later. But next up, let's talk about Ob Nixilis, the Adversary.
This one is 1 black and a red for a 3 mana value legendary planeswalker Nixilis. Interestingly enough, I guess Ob is like his title or something, not part of his name.
Absolutely, I actually know the lore on this. So, are you familiar with the card Dark Confident?
I am.
So, as a result, Bob used to be a title back on the plane where Ob Nixilis came from. And so now, since obviously Ob Nixilis went into exile, he's no longer a predominant figure. He's now Bob Nixilis. Or, used to be Bob Nixilis, but now he's just Ob Nixilis. He went down 1 rank.
Okay, so 3 starting loyalty has Casualty X, which means as you cast a spell, you may sacrifice a creature with power X. And when you do, you copy this spell. The copy becomes a token and has starting loyalty X. Very interesting. If you can sacrifice a 7 CMC creature, it can enter and ultimate right away, which is possibly Pog, because this thing's ultimate is -7. Target player draws 7 cards and loses 7 life. It also has a +1, which is each opponent loses 2 life unless they discard a card. If you control a demon or devil, you gain 2 life. And a -2 that is create a 1/1 red devil creature token. And it is the full devil creature token, so it has when this creature dies, it deals 1 damage to any target.
That's not so bad. I like that he's 3 mana value. I feel like we're probably going to see some version of this potentially in the standard deck, especially around the casualty parts. Having opponents lose multiple instances of 2 life unless they discard a card is going to start to get pretty insane and pretty nutty early on. That being said, I don't see enough value with this to really make an impact in Commander. Do you?
Well, it's interesting, right? Because it is each opponent. And right, the fact that when you Casualty X it, so you're doing it twice. So it's each opponent loses 4 life unless they discard 2 cards.
Okay. Right? You're convincing me a little bit.
I could see something going, but I don't know exactly what kind of a shell this would go into.
Do you think maybe like an Anji Falconwrath deck just to play around with a little bit more of the discard effects? Something like that?
Right. Could be something like that, or... Yeah, I guess Arctic in the chat says, if you play a mana dork on turn 1, you sack the dork to make 2 obs on turn 2.
Oh yeah, that's a fair point. Let me know if the audio is any better now, folks. I'm really trying to get this balanced out here. From my meters, everything's all hunky dory, so I'm really trying to mix with the best of them here. But yeah, the thing I like especially about the way they've designed this one is a lot of these 3 mana walkers they've been coming out with either have very clear value propositions or they have very, just generically powerful things going on. I like that this is sort of in between because you don't get the secondary effect of the gaining life unless you're already controlling a demon or a devil, which you can still fulfill with Ob Nixilis, but you have to take a risk and put him down to get there.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, any case, let's go next to maybe one of my favorite cards in the set, Elspeth Resplendent. Let me just spell a little bit here if I can spell correctly. And
it's tough.
I gotta say, I really appreciate how I cannot spell correctly. There we go.
Oh, you missed the S. I see it there. You got it.
That's all right. So.
We got Elspeth Resplendent, 3 and 2 white, so 5 mana value for a legendary planeswalker Elspeth. Starting loyalty of 5. Choose up to 1 target creature. Put a +1/+1 counter and a counter from among flying, first strike, lifelink, or vigilance on it. That's pretty good. -3 is look at the top 7 cards of your library. You may put a permanent card with mana value 3 or less from among them onto the battlefield with a shield counter on it. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Notably, permanent card, not specifically creature even. Like, that ability is very neat as well. And then -7, create 5. You heard him. 5 3/3 white angel creature tokens with flying.
That's pretty good. I gotta be honest, I like this quite a bit more than some of the other Planeswalkers I've seen in this set so far. I think 5 mana value is a little rough for what we're getting out of this Elspeth, considering what the sort of insane amount of value we get on 6 mana Elspeth with the 3 tokens coming in a turn. That being said, 1/1 counter and either flying, first strike, lifelink, or vigilance, you can really build a keyword soup creature pretty quickly with something like that going on. And
and you can do it like turn after turn, right? Exactly. So like one turn you give it a +1/+1 flying, the next turn you give it a +1/+1 vigilance, and now you've got, let's say, a 5/5 flying vigilance creature.
Yeah, kind of goes
that'll win games. Again, maybe not on our side of things in Commander. A little underwhelming for sure.
Sure.
But you know, I think it's a pretty neat card.
The point that
overall.
I come down to with it is it doesn't seem like the type of card that is going to be sort of a perennial powerhouse. Like I think it's Sun's Champion is the one I'm thinking of. Is the 6 mana value
yeah,
one?
That's the 6.
And so, I definitely feel like it's going to be put in a lot of lists, especially a lot of Super Friends lists that need something big and beefy that is maybe getting that vigilance counter or that first strike counter to be ahead of your Planeswalkers. However, there is another card that we need to talk about that might give you a different option in those Super Friends decks. That's Luxior, Giadia's Gift. Giadia's Gift? I don't know how to say it. I'm not going to try again. It's a legendary artifact equipment, comes in for 1. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each counter on it of any kind, and you can equip to a Planeswalker for 1, or just generally equip for 3. But if you equip it to a Planeswalker, equipped permanent isn't a Planeswalker and is a creature in addition to its other types. So that's pretty fancy. Start throwing that on a Karn. Start throwing that on a Gideon. I think that's some wild stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting, kooky, crazy things that people are throwing out with this card. I think my favorite is that it just so happens to go infinite with Devoted Druid, just on its own.
Thank goodness we broke Devoted Druid.
We broke Devoted Druid, yeah. I don't know that I've seen any like crazy broken Planeswalker things that are happening with it, other than like you're saying, just slap it on some Planeswalker that's like 7 loyalty or something. You've got a big beefy creature. And because it is a creature, no longer a Planeswalker, you can still activate its loyalty abilities, but it cannot be attacked like it was a Planeswalker. So your opponents lose what is typically the weakness of Planeswalkers, right? Being able to attack them with creatures and stop them from doing their big, crazy thing. So I think
that makes sense.
A pretty neat little thing here too.
I think the thing I like the most about it is it is another evidence that they're trying to play around a little bit more with some of the concepts that they've got in the game, allowing a Planeswalker to sort of become a creature like this and really give a different angle to the game, a different use for that card type. I think is pretty exciting, especially because it's sort of a fan favorite. I feel like at one point or another, most players that play Commander probably try for a Super Friends deck. And so having this angle on it is pretty exciting, especially since there are still a whole bunch of commanders out there that are Planeswalkers that say, this can be your commander, right?
Right.
So it's actually there's actually a way for them to now win through commander damage, which I don't think is the worst thing in the world. Yeah. Oh, I see Krivis, I see Arctic Blast, Trilemma, Boo, and somebody called Playing with Power. I've never heard of them before, have you?
I actually have, awkwardly enough. I'm going to be on their live stream tomorrow.
Oh, well, that's gonna be fun.
Getting my butt kicked at Magic the Gathering, probably.
Oh, well, check that out for sure.
Definitely.
All right, next up we have Cormella, Glamour Thief. It's 1 blue, black, red for a legendary creature vampire rogue, 2/4 haste. It has tap for 1, add blue, black, red. Spend it only to cast instant and/or sorcery spells. When it dies, return up to 1 target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. How do you feel about this, Elliot?
Well, I am a degenerate, as
Hmm.
we all know. I'm part of a channel called the Spike Feeders. I don't know if you've heard of us,
Yeah.
but it typically means that I like to do dumb, broken things. And this card goes infinite with some sort of sack outlet and, let's say, an exhume.
Ooh, I
Uh,
like that.
things that cost one and a black or less and
Okay.
reanimate a creature, make this thing go infinite. It will. So you tap it, obviously. You pay one, tap it to add Grixis.
Hmm.
Pay either the blue or the red and the black to cast your reanimation spell, bringing it back. Then again, you tap it, make three, sack it. Uh, when it dies, you return the thing that you just returned it with, and then keep going.
Interesting. And so you'd probably need
Mhm.
like one of the altars that's mana positive to make that work entirely, if I'm understanding you correctly.
Right. Ashnods or
Interesting.
Phyrexian altar.
Yeah. So
would be
on a side note, it also looks like this would be artisan legal. That is to say that it's an uncommon commander. I could see a couple of different builds that might be fun with that. Do you think that this is the kind of card that you're personally going to build around? Do you see this supplanting any kind of build strategy in your mind?
Not me personally. I already have two Grixis decks, and I'm pretty happy with them. So I think I would be pretty hard pressed to build another one, especially another one that is so like heavy instant or sorcery spell combo oriented.
Mhm.
Because that is the two that I already have, Kess and Inala. So
So yeah, that makes it a little bit tough, right?
yeah, but yeah, very cool card. If I do dip my toes into Artisan, it's cool to get what I assume is a viable combo option. I saw
Mhm.
Kess Wiley tweeting about it when it was spoiled. I think that's where I stole this combo from. In
Yeah, that
fact,
makes sense. I would say that
but yeah.
that's sort of his baby, that whole artisan community that he's built up there. I
Mhm.
really like that they continue to put out these uncommon legendaries that aren't necessarily big haymakers, but they have like interesting pieces going on. And we'll get to a
Right.
couple other of those later as we go along. Next up, let's talk about a mono blue commander, Errant, the Street Artist, a human rogue 0/3 with Flash, Defender, Haste. Now, Elliot, why in the world would a Defender need Haste?
Well, you see, Alex, this creature has what we call an activated ability,
Oh, why don't you tell me about
which
that?
which if it had summoning sickness, it would not be able to use upon
Really?
entering the battlefield. So Errant is one blue, like you said, for a 0/3, but it has one in a blue. Tap it, copy target spell you control that was not cast, and you may choose new targets for the copy.
Interesting.
So again, kind of not inherently broken, like on
No.
its own, kind of a thing.
Hmm.
But I've seen Ken Stack DDH maybe doing some musings with this in his Krark Sakashima deck.
Oh, yeah, I could see
Uh,
that.
that copies like a lot of things.
Hmm.
So I imagine this is good enough,
Yeah.
probably, because I imagine it does it the one time for three, which I think is maybe a little expensive. But then in theory, if it untaps or if you have spells like twiddling it or whatever, I don't
Hmm.
know if that's a thing that the deck does.
Hmm.
But could be powerful.
Well, I mean, realistically,
Um,
this could handle a lot of different types of copying effects. It could come out of stuff like storm copies, even, right?
yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Interesting. All right. Well, next up, let's talk about Evelyn the Covetous, a two
Yeah,
Demir black
Rakdos.
Rakdos. Sorry, my brain
Mhm.
shut off. I was just like, I don't know what that one is. But it's a legendary creature vampire rogue 2/5 with flash, and whenever Evelyn the Covetous or another vampire enters the battlefield under your control, exile the top card of each player's library with a collection counter on it. Once each turn, you may play a card from exile with a collection counter on it if it was exiled by an ability you controlled, and you may spend mana as though it were any color to cast it. Woo! That's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. It's I like this card a lot because its like ability is tied to being vampire tribal, kind of, you know?
Yeah.
unless you are again like going infinite in some way and like sacrificing this and casting it over and over again just to exile your opponent's entire libraries or whatever. I think you really want to be leaning towards casting a lot of dorky little vampires and just triggering this ability
and just sort of collecting and collecting and collecting.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. So it's a little awkward because I do know that Edgar Markov, if I'm remembering correctly, is in Mardu color identity, whereas this is in Grixis, yeah?
Right, yeah.
And so you can't use and abuse that particular generator of vampire tokens, but there might be some other ways we can play around with that, yeah?
Yeah. Again, not sure, not exactly my wheelhouse of things. So not sure exactly where you're gonna go with that, but definitely some vampire-y people excited about this card.
Absolutely. Talking about a card that I think just a lot of people are excited about, it's Valko Spara Pact Weaver. 1 green, white, blue for a legendary creature, bird demon, 3/3, Flample, which is my favorite combination of abilities ever, and he enters the battlefield with a shield counter on him. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. You may cast spells from the top of your library by removing a counter from a creature you control in addition to paying their other costs. How do you feel about this one? I feel like this has got some potential in and around, I think it's top combos, right?
Interestingly enough, Alex, this card goes infinite with Devoted Druid and Sensei's Divining Top.
Oh, we broke Devoted Druid twice! Oh my god!
So you tap Devoted Druid to add a green, tap Devoted Druid to add a green, untap Devoted Druid, putting a -1/-1 counter on it, remove the -1/-1 counter with Falco Spara to cast top from the top of your library, tap top to put it back on top of your library, rinse and repeat. Draw your whole deck.
That just seems good to me. I really like this design because I really love shield counters. When you watch the set review this Thursday, or immediately after this if you're a patron, you'll hear me talking about how much I really love shield counters as a design. And I think the new Bant flavor that they've gone for with this counters matter stuff is exactly where this sort of thing wants to be. Think about what what white and green typically have issues with. It's trying to find the next thing that they want to cast. And so being able to put this into a Bant shell, preserve some of those, we want to have a bunch of big creatures with counters on them stuff going,
right?
And then take in card selection, being able to play with that extra 8th card on the top of our library. I really like that. I think that's got a lot of good stuff going for it.
Definitely, yeah.
So next up we have the name I can't say, Giadia, I think.
I think it's Jada? I don't know.
The Font of Hope is a 2-mana value 2/2, which is normally a bear, which is normally just fine on its own, but this one comes with flying. Flying and vigilance. Flying and vigilance, and each other angel creature you control enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it for each angel you already control. And it can tap to add white to spend this mana only to cast an angel spell. What the heck, Elliot? What are we looking at here?
Man, angels are cool and good. And now they're cooler and gooder.
Right? I remember, who was it? Snow Queen of Hoth on Twitter. Famous angel stan. She's out there talking about how much she loves angels every day, harassing Light about the fact that Halo is in fact ground up angels. Everyone tagged her in this simply because this feels like the angel card for angel card lovers. It just is dripping with flavor. It's got so much value to it. Do you see this being more of a 99, or is this a commander to you?
It is interesting. Again, I'm not a particularly tribal building person typically, and so I'm not the one that's gonna break this open probably. But personally, I do think this is an in the 99 kind of card, because it does not offer you any sort of card advantage in the command zone, or from the command zone, I guess. It'll make your other angels really big when you play it, and it makes them kind of one cheaper or whatever, right? It's a mana rock.
Right.
But it doesn't say draw a card, so in my mono white deck, I don't think I'm too happy with that.
Okay, that's fair enough. To me,
in the command zone, sorry, specifically.
Right. To me, angels have never been a tribe that I really want to pursue that hard. What I actually found this a little more interesting for is Maskwood Nexus or Changeling type decks. There's a lot of text on this that cares about tribalism, and if you're just in every tribe at the same time, this is just a really efficient creature for that type of build. It comes down, is it Vigilant, Flyer, and can cast basically every other permanent spell you've got, and it'll come in with just, and cause other angels you come in, other changelings, I should say, to come in with just an absurd amount of counters on them. So I just think that's
I think that's actually a really good point. Jim probably wants this for his Kangi tribal deck, the blue-white tribal deck, because this will have a lot of big flying beaters entering the battlefield for one cheaper because they also happen to be angels for some reason.
Yeah, no, that doesn't seem bad to me. Next up, let's talk about Jaxus, the Troublemaker. It's a 3 and a red for a 2/3. Red, tap, discard a card. Create a token that's a copy of another target creature you control. It gains haste, and when this creature dies, draw a card, sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step, activate only as a sorcery. Now, I'm no brain genius, but that's just Blitz, right?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, it's just Blitz for cards that don't have Blitz. It's sort of a more efficient Blitz for folks that are looking for it. I don't know who is looking for this in terms of a commander. I could see this being sort of a big dumb beaters commander if you wanted to play like just mono 10 mana value creatures, and Jaxus in mono red with like, I guess, Eldrazi as your game plan. I do like what Blitz is overall more than I like this particular card. The idea of having something come out with sort of pseudo dash, whereas instead of coming back to your hand when you're done with it, it goes to the yard, but it also refills your hand. I like that. I think that has the right stuff to it. I just don't know that I'm super on board for, this is a... Oh, is it Blitz for stuff that's already on the board? Never mind. I'm completely I'm out to lunch.
So it's weird, right? So you discard a card, and you create a token that's a copy of another target creature, and the token is effectively, like you're saying, it's blitzed or whatever, right? So it has haste. When it dies, draw a card. It's interesting. I think this is another in the 99 kind of card of like a Xenagos deck or something like that.
That I could see, yeah.
Right, where you're like already sneak attacking or something, like some other big dumb idiot, and then this allows you to make a second copy.
Sure.
For 1 red, or I guess 3 in a red, and then another red, or blitz this.
I say
right?
you could blitz this too.
Yeah. So it could be 3 mana and a card from your hand to make 2 Blightsteel Colossi or something, right?
But that'll probably get you there, yeah.
Yeah, but again, that's kind of the only thing I'm seeing that is like super exciting about this card, other than, I don't know, some kind of modest value, which I'm not about it.
Mark Bonifant in the chat choosing violence and saying, with Dockside?
Fair enough. Yeah, you could get a second Dockside.
Or a third, or a 12th, But yeah, 12th. No, I don't know that this speaks to me on too many levels. I don't see it being something that I'm looking to use, but I am really excited for when someone eventually breaks this with some sort of sweet tech. That's going to be great.
Yeah, I think that part of things is almost certainly going to come from blitzing this card in, right? And then doing something kooky crazy, but again, not me, not the one that's breaking it.
So, speaking of things that are already pre-broken, let's talk about Jetmir, Nexus of Rebels. This one. Red, green, white. Cat Demon, 5/4. You just want to talk about it, Elliot?
Yeah, so this thing all on its own is a 4 mana 5/4. Then, if you have 3 or more creatures you control, including himself, get +1/+0 and have vigilance. If you have 6 or more creatures, they also get another +1/+0 and trample. If you have 9 or more creatures, they get an additional +1/+0 for a grand total of +3/+0 and add double strike to that list of keywords. So you get, again, 9 creatures is kind of a lot, but for having 9 creatures in play, they get +3/+0, vigilance, trample, double strike.
Yeah,
he's a 4 mana 5/4.
I think he's very neat. That being said, I feel like he's very on rails. Can you imagine another way to play this other than token production?
No, right? Yeah, like you are just Naya, make every token you possibly can,
Yeah.
right? In theory, you're probably some kind of deck that's trying to have 9 creatures in play when you cast this guy on turn 4 or whatever, right? And then, or I guess 8, because then you play him and he counts himself, but then he's essentially just Craterhoof Behemoth, right? He just gives your other 8 creatures +3/+0, Vigilance, Trample, Double Strike, and you hope that kills somebody.
Well, realistically, it doesn't matter what you start out with. Even a 0/1 Black Thrall token is still going to be 3/1 Vigilant, Trampling, Double Striking, right?
Yeah.
Like there's
a 0/1 is still 6 damage.
It's absolutely absurd. I guess the thing I would like to see with this is if you could maybe like swap out one of these abilities for a completely different ability. Like say we got rid of the Double Strike at the end there. What would you swap out to make this a more versatile commander?
I think versatile is tricky. It could maybe make its own tokens somewhere in there for some like some amount of mana or something like that, or maybe it could, instead of just giving the keywords for free, it could make, if it's like, it could be like okay, if we get rid of all the abilities.
Sure.
Like,
yeah. No. The only thing I could think of is if maybe you replace the last +1/+0 and Double Strike with tap, sacrifice 3 creatures you control, fling, equal to all 3 of them together. That's about the only other thing I could see really having a lot of stuff in it. I think this is going to be a really, really good introductory commander for a lot of folks. I think this is the kind of card that gets people into Commander itself, because I just don't see this being super viable in any other format. It's very, very flavorfully a Commander card, and it's the kind of Commander deck that I think a lot of newer players feel drawn to a certain extent, because it's basically just, oh, well, I only have to do the one thing and I can compete with my friends. That sounds great. And so I think that might do fine. Again,
interestingly enough, in like Canadian Highlander, again, I'm not an expert by any means, but I do think this could literally just be Craterhoof number 5 or whatever in like the Cradle Hoof Elf Ball type deck.
Okay,
right. I believe again that deck was already splashing either white, like being Naya, or being green, red, blue Hammer.
Sure.
So basically, if just you are the Naya,
just call up Ben Wheelers and be like, "Hey Ben."
Yeah, I should have cleared this. Should have cleared this with Benny Wheels for sure. I have no idea. I'm pretty much talking out of my ass, but I'm pretty sure that deck like makes about 9 creatures, right? And it plays all the other pigs as well, right? So Endless, no,
Pathbreaker, Ibex.
No, the pigs. Four runners.
Oh, Endray's Forerunners, yeah.
Endray's Forerunners, and the Eldrazi one, Decimator of Provinces.
Yeah.
Both of which give +2/+2 Vigilance, Trample, or whatever to your board, right? So even if you only have 6 other creatures, this guy gives +2/+0 Vigilance, Trample, right? So
yeah, that's not so bad. Honestly, like I said, I think it's got some potential. I think it's got some good stuff going on. I just don't know that it hits enough notes for me to be like, oh yeah, I don't want to do anything else.
Again, I was initially very excited about this card because it has so much text on it. But I imagine every deck you play with this commander, like if you build this commander deck, plays basically the same, right?
Yeah.
You are ramping into tokens and casting this guy and killing everybody. Ramping into tokens and getting wrathed and losing the game, and ramping into tokens and casting this guy and killing everybody. Woo.
Sure. Well, one interesting thing I think you could do with this, and it actually applies to the second card just as the next card we're going to talk about just as much, is actually maybe making a creatureless go wide deck where you only use non-creature based solutions for generating your tokens. That might be a way of making a slightly less powerful version, but even then it just feels sort of samey. In any case, let's move on to the next card. It's Jinny Fey Jetmir's Second, and wouldn't you know it, it's another card all based around token production, but this one's got at least something else going on. And so we've got a Gruul green Selesnya cost for a 3/3, which is already just fine. 3/3 for 3 green seems great.
Mhm.
But it also says if you would create 1 or more tokens, you may instead create that many 2/2 green cat creature tokens with haste, or that many 3/1 green dog creature tokens with vigilance. I really like this design.
Oh yeah. Alex, let me tell you what I'm going to do with this card.
Tell me what you're going to do with this card.
I'm going to put this card into a deck with Academy Manufactor and Doubling Season and Anointed Procession and all those typical do nothing gooders.
Yep.
And I'm going to make, instead of 300 clues and treasures and foods, I'm going to make 600 cats. 2/2 green cats with haste.
Green hasty cat. Yeah.
And I'm gonna kill everybody. That's what I'm gonna do with this.
I'm a big fan of dying to things that you do.
Yeah,
I really like this because it gives the treasures in green something that's a little more green to go off of. I would much rather see you trade in your gold for a cat token, even if it's at a fairly aggressive payoff rate. I also like that you have 2 options here that are very classically defensive or offensive. Right? That 3/1 vigilant creature is maybe one of the best blockers I've ever heard of, and you get to still be aggressive with it. And will it be raining cats and dogs? Krivis asks.
It will. It mostly cats. I think probably mostly going cats. But like Alex said, if we need to be on the defensive and we're making like 23/1 green dogs with vigilance, that's a hell of a lot of blocking.
And not only that, but if you've already got Concordant Crossroads out, why do you care about the cat? You just want more power, right?
Yeah, the dogs are just bigger.
I think this is really appealing to a lot of different subsets. It's sort of an interesting way to do Rin and Seri a little bit more aggressively. I'm not sure how many places are going to want this in the 99. This feels like the type of commander that you really got to build around. I don't see this being very valuable from a CEDH perspective. Even if you were to trade in all of your dockside tokens, I just don't think that there's the engine currently to make this really pop off.
Right. Your degenerate dockside in CEDH is typically like 7 or 8, right? Yeah. And if you are turning those 8 treasures into 16 power worth of cats, that's like fine and good, but you're also then not like looping the dockside, right? Because they are no longer treasures that refund your mana to blah, 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 blah.
You can straight up cast it off of Jewel Lotus, which is a great port that Arctic Blast brings up. Also, chat, if we could get some love for Arctic Blast real quick, feeding in those Scryfall links, I really appreciate it. I hope you appreciate it too. So just give them a quick thumbs up in the chat. That'd be great.
Yeah, I was actually going to point that out. We missed it for Evelyn, and we're probably no longer going to bring it up for the rest of these, but I do kind of really like that they did that with some of the off legendaries in this set, in that they made them 3 different colors, but they are all like overlapping on the 3 colors there, so you can cast them off of Jewel Lotus. I think it is funny.
Does anybody know offhand what the angel that makes spirits when non-spirits die is?
I am pretty sure I played it in my Aristocrats deck, but I think I stopped. It's like Angel of
Benediction,
not
maybe?
Sanctions, Deliverance. Is this him or them?
But I imagine what Krovax is going for there is you replace the spirit generation with a cat. So then when you sacrifice the cat, you get another spirit.
You get another spirit. Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
That's not a bad plan. In any case, let's move on to our next card. Elliot, I'm going to read this to you, and then you tell me what it does, okay? This is Legrella the Magpie. It's green, white, blue. It's a human soldier 2/3. When Legrella the Magpie enters the battlefield, exile any number of other target creatures controlled by different players until Legrella leaves the battlefield. When an exiled card enters the battlefield under your control this way, put 2 +1/+1 counters on it.
So, yeah, this gave everybody on Twitter a conniption, I'm pretty sure. It allows you to exile 1 creature from any number of opponents. So if you have 5 opponents, you can exile 1 creature from each of them. But a lot of people, pretty reasonably, thought that this card was Plaguewind. Just 3 mana Plaguewind, which
would be kind of wild.
And busted. Yeah.
You also get to do one of your own that's not Legrella, and that's where the second half of the ability comes in, because when Legrella eventually does leave, whatever you had come back in under your control You put 2+1/+1 counters on it. You do also have the option here, interestingly enough, of donating a creature out to an opponent, hitting it with Lagrella, and having both that and whatever else you've chosen come back. But ultimately, I just see this as being a very messy card. It's not so much that it's hard to understand; it's just got a lot of bookkeeping on it, and I don't see where the get over comes out. Do you?
No, not typically.
Yeah. Having a conditional grasp of fate, just it's okay. Yeah, it's okay. Anyway,
I do hate to do this, but I need to excuse myself very briefly.
That's okay.
Please, if you want to pause, that's fine. But if you want to keep it on trucking, I believe in you. I will be back as soon as I can. Okay?
It's okay, buddy. You go. Have fun doing whatever it is you're doing. Chat. Let's go ahead and start speculating about what Eliot's doing. Anyone that says bathroom, you get a 5-minute ban. So literally, what do we think Eliot's doing? Best story wins. In the meantime, we're going to move on, and we're all going to talk about the biggest threat to EDH security known to man, beast, child, upside down orangutan. It's, of course, Lord Xander the Collector. The worst thing to happen to Commander since Commander, really. It's a 7-mana vampire demon noble that's a 6/6. And it says, when he comes into the battlefield, target opponent discards half the cards in their hand rounded down. Then, whenever they attack, the defending player mills half their library rounded down. And then when they die, target opponent sacrifices half the non-land permanents they control rounded down. I don't know why people are so scared of this. Honestly, it does look kind of miserable to play against. I don't doubt that. I don't think there's anybody that's going to sit there and say, oh yeah, I'd love for all of these effects to hit me. But realistically, there's only a few different places that you're going to see this sort of effect really hurt you on a recurring basis on a 7-mana commander. The fact that it doesn't hit everybody at the table, but rather target opponent, also really cuts this in half, and you have to send him through the entire life cycle to get the full value out of him. Discarding half the cards in your hand is a good introductory piece, but realistically, the win condition on this is going to be the defending player milling half their library rounded down, and because he doesn't innately have haste, you need to be going and getting some other sort of support to get him the haste to really make him any kind of threat. Now, don't get me wrong, if you're already up at 7 mana value, are you going to have the capacity to go and get those things in place before they happen? Of course you are. But I just don't see this being the kind of thing that really has this sort of problem. From my perspective, this is the type of card that people like to freak out about, but aren't going to see played that much. It reminds me in a lot of ways of Toxrill from whatever set Toxrill's from. I want to say that's one of the Midnight Hunts, maybe Crimson Vow. It doesn't really matter. Don't get me wrong, is it a miserable card to play against if it shows up? Absolutely. I just don't think it's going to show up in enough games frequently enough that people are really going to spend a lot of time dealing with Lord Xander like we sort of saw at the beginning. Coroner says Sneak Attack. I agree. Sneak Attack has the potential to make that a problem. But if I remember Sneak Attack correctly, Sneak Attack has to be from your hand. You don't have a way to get Sneak Attack from the command zone, right? So now we're in the business of, having him riskily in our yard so we can put it back up into our hand via... Not Exhume, is it? I don't know card names. I'm really sorry about this, folks. This is the thing I'm the very worst at. Mimic Vat might also be great, but again, still having to make it work around to actually get into the position where it can be used. And so don't get me wrong, there are abuse cases here, but they all seem to be very, very high mana value abuse cases. If it would be filed, it would be a bolus. Can't sneak attack from command zone yet. Fearless is a commander and more is a reanimation target. I agree with you, Kribis. That being said, I think anybody who's going to be spending a lot of time doing these sorts of things is going to be the type of person that it's noticeable from, if that makes sense. You're not going to be shocked when the player who sits down across from you with Lord Xander the Collector starts doing those sorts of things, because I can't imagine a full and robust pregame conversation not revealing what's going on there, because either they're going to be, straightforward and great, or they're not going to be, and maybe you shouldn't play that game in the first place, especially if it's something that's going to bother you. Netherbloom Altar, yeah, that might work too. Regardless, I like the effects. I like the way it's put together. I think it's a pretty fine card. I think in a lot of ways, this is what these color identities should be doing in Commander at those levels. It's just doing a lot of stuff that I think folks don't like in Commander, namely taking away things that they want to play with. And that's okay. Having things get taken away from folks is, well, frankly, it's part of the game. You're not always going to be able to have everything come out. Thalys says, cloning it seems scary. Yeah, but again, you got to keep them around. And I think this thing eats Path to Exiles for breakfast. And that's about all the more I can say about that. So I'm going to assume Eliot will be back soon, because otherwise he might get a little mad at me, because I think this is one of the cards that I've heard him talk about so far that's coming up next. And it's Mr. Orfeo the Boulder. 1 black, red, green for a Jund Rhino Warrior 2/4 that says, whenever you attack, double target creature's power until end of turn. This is another uncommon commander. And I think this is maybe my favorite. No, it's probably my second favorite uncommon in the set. I'm looking down the list here, and I'm seeing another uncommon that I think is really, really good. Went to go gather a sword to plowshares. You're absolutely. Is that the Nick White? How you doing, buddy? Good to see you. Nice to see you, friend from university. Anyway, Mr. Orfeo the Boulder doubles target creature's power until end of turn. I like this quite a bit because it's sort of like a more put together version of Xenagos. It's a little bit more streamlined without the toughness, and it gives you access to a few more things, namely Jund. Eliot, welcome back. What was my favorite thing I saw there? You were out doing jumping jacks, according to Krovax.
I was, yeah. I did a lot of jumping jacks, and I am ripped now. So.
Yeah, you just ripped? Okay, well, we went all the way through Lord Xander. Do you have anything to say about the 7-mana guy who does a bunch of stuff?
No. Yeah, nothing to say about Lord Xander. I picked a good time to leave.
You definitely picked a good time to leave.
I'm not gonna lie, I was on the stream on my phone while I was absent, and I heard the things you were saying, and I feel the exact same way. Yeah. I think this card is definitely not as scary as people are making it out to be. But you know that's what Magic Twitter is good for.
Why don't you start breaking down the Boulder?
So first of all, Krivis called it out already. Get your Avatar: The Last Airbender jokes in. I don't know if anybody else other than me and Krivis are getting it, but there's a character in Avatar: The Last Airbender called the Boulder, and he's a very funny, Randy Savage, what's the word I'm looking for?
Personality?
Yeah, like he is very, very much trying to, or like emulating Macho Man Randy Savage, trying to be like some kind of like a pro wrestler type thing. And he fights a young blind girl and gets his butt kicked because she's a professional or whatever, a really talented earthbender. And anyway, it's very funny.
That's a really expansive rule set for wrestling, when you can use your spiritual wizard powers to call upon the elements of creation to fight.
Hell yeah! And I don't make the rules. I just watch it.
No, fair enough. So what do you like the most about
the card itself?
Yeah,
the card itself I like because it is a 4-mana Rhino Warrior that makes big thing hit bigger.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that. If you were going to build this deck, what are some of the cards that you're like reaching for in your binder to go along with it?
Let's see. Xenagos, so that we can quadruple something. Mm-hmm. What's the big enchantment that gives my things double strike too? Berserker's Onslaught or something like that. Mm-hmm. I'm blanking on huge creatures right now, but big creatures. How about? Well, Blightsteel Colossus doesn't need it. It has an infect.
Yeah, it's just Blightsteel Colossus. But just
Malignus.
Malignus. Woo. There you go. Okay, yeah, I can see that. I just like it because it's a nice, simple, and clean effect. I really, really like, as I mentioned earlier, how clean they're leaving most of the uncommon commanders. They usually have just a single theme that they do fairly simply and fairly powerfully. I mean, realistically, Mr. Orfeo on his own is a 4-mana 4/4, and that's pretty good.
Yeah. It is tragic for Jim's Saskia deck that this is not a 3/4 or a 2/5. If this was 7, if its power toughness added up to 7, then you could get this and then make all of your ball lightnings 12 power creatures and crunch in with those.
You could make them baller lightnings. Okay, we should move on from there. Next up, Let's talk about Ognis, the Dragon's Lash. 1. Rakdos, red, Gruul for a legendary creature, Vashino Warrior 3/3 with haste, and whenever a creature we control with haste attacks, create a tapped treasure token. Elliot, you will remember from 2 days ago about the video that is coming out in 2 more days, where I said, and I quote, I loved tapped treasure.
Yes.
I love tapped treasure, folks. It's a much better mechanic if you're going to be pushing it into green, even green tangentially. I also really like that this has like a tension between the hasty part and the slow mana production part.
Right. I think it obviously is on purpose, because if this created untapped treasures, it would very easily go infinite with aggravated assault and that ilk to just give you infinite combat steps with enough hasty creatures, which, you know, again, once you have enough creatures, it's simple enough. You just give them anger or concordant crossroads or blah blah blah, and you're in all of the colors to do that. But yeah, it's interesting, right? Because they enter tapped. In theory, you get the 1 attack in there with a bunch of hasty creatures. Then next turn, they untap, so you sacrifice them to play more hasty creatures to make more treasures.
Yeah. I really like the design. I think it's an interesting and slightly different Jund space than we saw even with Mr. Orfeo. I can see this being a much more, where is my consistent hasty value black, red, green deck than it is so much anything else. You could run some of the reanimators that come in, like Unearth, for example, gets you a token. Dash is going to get you a token. There's a couple different ways you can play around with those sort of more net loss effects that you can see on these types of cards that this helps out with. And I like that.
Yeah. It also appears that we have somehow raised a culture of spikes, and our chat immediately jumped to Amulet of Vigor to make the tapped treasures not tapped. Bad spikes.
We're sitting here, we're trying to balance cards, chat. They're going to be balanced.
Stop.
I don't want to be degenerates. Just kidding. We absolutely want to be degenerates, and that's great stuff. But now we're going to talk about my favorite uncommon commander in the set, Quasar, Augur of Agonies, which, first of all, that's a great name. I want to be an Augur of Agonies. Don't you want to be an Augur of Agonies?
If I could pick a title, this might be. It's got to be top 5 at least. Yeah.
Any case, it's 1 white, blue, black for a Cephalid Advisor 3/4 that says whenever you draw a card, target opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. It's just a pure value proposition. It says, how would you like to play draw, go, control, and commander? And I really like that.
Yeah, this card is sweet. I have the same complaint that anybody that saw our Twitter post from earlier knows that I have, in that this is not a Cephalid. But this card is actually the most broken in one of our good friends, Jim LePage's Lich deck.
That's right. It's basically the only deck tech, I believe, that we have on the channel. So if you want to go look up the Aether Lich deck tech, check it out. I believe Jim is on record as saying this gets slammed in here already. So I just think it's good. It just looks
this card is obscene in that deck. You just replace Psychosis Crawler with it, and then not only is it killing your opponent, it also draws you more cards, because that's what Liches do when you gain life, typically.
Yeah, it's pretty overwhelmingly valuable. I also like that it's got a just outside most common removal with this kind of type line. The 3/4 especially really hits the right spot for me. Realistically, I can't see too many reasons why you wouldn't put this in that type of list, but it's also just very good for your standard Pella 40 matches. You want to load your hand up on value, not really worry about what other people are doing, and just sort of consistently get through what's going on.
Definitely.
Now, let's talk about the top of the Obscura Guild, and that's Rafine, Scheming Seer. White, blue, black for a Sphinx Demon 1/4 with flying and ward 1. Whenever you attack, target attacking creature connives X, where X is the number of attacking creatures. Draw X cards, then discard X cards. Put a 1/1 counter on each creature for each non-land card. On that creature, sorry. For each non-land card discarded this way on a 1/4 body. I actually think that this is a very, very aggressive Esper commander. How do you feel about it?
Definitely something we have not seen in these colors before. I believe it is Anthony, Listener Alters, on Twitter, immediately started making an Esper Flying Men style deck with this. I think that deck looks crazy. Potentially like CEDH level, like Edric level stuff. You play all of the like really cheap blue, white, black, whatever, like creatures that can attack for free. The Tormenting Soul, Judge's Familiar, things with evasion. And when they all attack, you connive 14, draw 14 cards, discard 14 cards.
Right,
but probably find yourself an extra turn spell.
Yeah.
Probably cast the extra turn spell.
Yeah.
Probably attack again.
Yeah, with your new thicker whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah. It's like Tim and Malcolm but balanced is a great quote. Okay, yeah. Esper Tempo, says Krivis. I could see that. This is... I don't think it's quite far enough for me to say that this is, the most overwhelmingly aggressive Esper that could be possible. Obviously, you could do more, but for colors that are very much Oloro, I'm going to sit back in my throne and gain life and peer imperiously down at you. This is not that. This is very much, I want to smack you in the mouth, and I want to smack you in the mouth with a bunch of stuff. And so I just kind of like that. I like that they're going for some different things. Number one card you want to put in a deck with Rafine?
Ooh, I mean, Time Warp, man. I'm that guy. Yeah, I'm that guy. You've seen my Yuriko deck, but I have in fact. I'm that guy for sure.
Do you think that this is a better example of that type of commander than Yuriko would be?
No, because Yuriko, Edric are just draw. Just put them into your hand or whatever, right? You don't have to pick and choose. But it is interesting because with the selection, you also grow your own creatures, right? So in theory, if you have the mana to cast the extra turn spell that, again, in theory, you're finding, because you are conniving X every time and the creature is growing, presumably you are still hitting with that creature every turn and continuing blah blah blah. It could even be Rafine, right? Like themselves with flying and their like form of protection, the Ward 1. It just keeps growing and hitting. You don't have to keep up on mana and cards, like in terms of playing out more creatures to keep attacking with. You can just attack with the one thing and it'll get infinitely large.
That makes sense. And since it's already got evasion, do you think that's enough to be sort of a command damage threat?
Again, I think that is what maybe ekes this into that kind of territory, right?
Okay.
Edric themselves, Yuriko themselves do not have either evasion or Ward 1 is, a form of protection. So yeah, I think this card is really cool.
Okay, fair enough. Well, let's move on from Rafine to a sort of straightforward but very interesting design in Rigo, Streetwise Mentor. It's Selesnya White Azorius for a cat citizen 2/2 with enters the battlefield with a shield counter on it, and whenever you attack a player or planeswalker with one or more creatures with power 1 or less, draw a card.
Love it. I like drawing cards.
Reminds me of there's a Selesnya commander from one of the I think it was from one of the partner sets that does 2 or less stuff, right?
Oh, Sidar Kondo, yeah.
There we go, Sidar Kondo. It reminds me of that in a little bit of a way, but this doesn't trigger itself. It needs help to do anything. I don't know. To me, this seems a little underwhelming. What do you want to do with this, Elliot?
Again, this is kind of the opposite side of the Rafine spectrum of, Flyingman deck or whatever, right? You can still do it, Bant Flyingman. Okay. They are, again, typically all creatures with power 1 or less. But when you are attacking then, you are attacking 3 people, typically, right? Your 3 opponents. I guess technically if you can chip in at a planeswalker, you do get to draw more than 3 cards, but 3 per turn limited.
Sure.
not the best odds necessarily of continuing to hit your time walk spells and keep going,
Yeah.
kind of a thing. And yeah, like you said, like again, does not trigger itself. This guy's a 2/2. Why isn't he a 1/3? And does not give them like unblockable or anything like that, right? As well, he gives himself a shield counter, which is a form of protection, right? Like that's pretty good. He has to eat 2 removal spells or something, but I don't think you gain too much from white that you don't just have on Edric, which is again just the unbounded draw.
Yeah.
And I think if you are wanting to not be green, then Yuriko or now Rafine are just better kind of options for that style.
I don't think that this card is particularly bad in any sense of the word. Obviously, if you're in some sort of weenies attack deck, sure. I mean, this might make the 99, I think, more likely than the top. I think you have better commanders to build for this. That being said, if you're looking for a more casual way to build that style of deck, I think this might qualify. On the other hand, I'm not sure how much I like non-deterministic or more interrupted time warp style re-attack decks. I don't want to not lose, if that makes sense.
No, definitely. Yeah. I very, very much understand that aspect of those style of decks. And yeah, I think this card, again, because it is kind of got the cap on drawing, that you are very likely wanting to play this in the 99 of, like you're saying, like some kind of token or weenie type deck where you just get some incremental draw value off of it. And yeah, it's probably good enough.
Well, let's turn to something that sort of set everybody's brains aflame for a second and a half. I can see Elliot's excited. I think I will let me introduce it instead of Elliot. It's Rocco, Cabaret Caterer for X, red, green, white. I'm kidding, Elliot, go for it.
Yeah, X, red, green, white, legendary creature, elf, druid. It's a 3/1. That part doesn't matter. When Rocco, Cabaret Caterer, enters the battlefield, if you cast it, you may search your library for a creature card with mana value X or less, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. Alex, this card is Chord of Calling.
It's Chord of Calling?
This card is Chord of Calling as a creature.
Do you think do you think you're going to play it?
Yes.
100%?
I have brewed a deck. Yes, I have brewed a deck. Okay. It is eloquently named Combo Soup, because this man is a caterer. Yeah. And you can just do anything and everything with this card. Sure. Throwing back to the new Vivian, this is a 3 CMC commander. So if you have something to kill Arena Rector with, you cast this for 7 mana from the command zone, get Arena Rector, kill Arena Rector, get Vivian, Vivian to kill this to get Felidar, etc., etc. Kill everybody with infinite Felidar Guardians off of Kikijiki. It also can get, for 6 mana, if you already have Food Chain in your hand or on the battlefield, it can get either of the 3 mana options that you're allowed to play in Naya, Squee, or Eternal Scourge. And then you exile those infinitely to Food Chain, and then exile Rocco to Food Chain, recast Rocco to get whatever creature from your library, or more realistically, every creature from your library.
Okay.
And, win somehow, probably.
Magically. Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah, I'm just really excited about this silly little card. Okay. I think this thing is sweet.
Okay. Do you think it's more robust than some of the other Food Chain commanders that we currently have?
Robust is an interesting word. I think it is probably less consistent than a couple, because it does not have black in its color identity.
Sure.
So you have minimal ways to actually go get Food Chain in these colors. You have, I think, I don't have the list pulled up. I should have pulled it up.
And
right, you've got Rector, Enlightened
Idyllic.
Tutor, Idyllic Tutor, if you want to go that deep, right?
Yeah.
But
Gamble.
not super ideal. And then Gamble is the other one that is, risking it for the biscuit, but
I say, don't get me wrong. He looks like he makes good biscuits. I just don't want to risk it that much. That's not for me.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
let's. You're excited?
Still very excited to play that card.
Right on. So let's talk about Toulouse, Clever Conductor, Azorius, Blue, Demir for a human rogue 3/1. When it enters the battlefield, it connives. Whenever you discard one or more cards, exile them from your graveyard. When this creature dies, put the cards exiled with it into their owner's hand.
Yeah.
Bag of holding?
Yeah. I'm excited to see what Cobblepot brews with this commander.
There you go.
And if it looks sweet, I will play it. But I am not the one to break this card again. That is.
It does seem breakable. My brain's just too small to figure it out.
Exactly. Yeah. Me too.
because it's not when it leaves the battlefield, right? It specifically dies. If this was something you could flicker, I could understand there being more value to it with the conniving. If it was something that you could, get no matter where Toulouse went, I'd feel a little bit better about it. But you get exiled, and now those cards are just, gone, because I'm pretty sure that's a linked ability, and so
Yes.
It's just kind of messy. I'm not sure how I feel about it. I think I would have maybe preferred it if they'd exiled with like a counter. That way it has the memory skip taken care of. I'm excited to see what somebody does with it. It won't be me. So, anything else you want to say about Elliot?
Nope, that is about how I feel as well. Yeah.
Right on.
And I was a little distracted on that one because I found my list. There we go. I will link it there.
Yeah, folks, go check out Elliot's list to this. You can also follow him on Moxfield, I'm pretty sure you're using these days.
Yes,
Yeah.
I believe we are all using the Mox field.
It's a great website that you should use, and no, we're not sponsored, so yeah. Next up, let's talk about Urbarask. Urbarask. Heretic Praetor. 3 red for a Phyrexian Praetor. Oh, that's good. It's a 4/4 with haste, and at the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library. You may play it this turn. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, the next time they would draw a card this turn, instead, they exile the top card of their library. They may play it this turn. Kind of wacky waving inflatable armed, yeah?
Yeah, I don't know what I would do with this card, if I'm being honest.
I know what I would do with this card.
Okay.
Red-white prison.
Yep. This is pretty mean with knowledge pool, I suppose, or
you also throw
Almond Machine,
Draneth Magistrate.
Yeah.
Because now you're drawn and no one else is drawn, and even though you're exiling the top card every turn, I don't think you care too much. So.
Yeah. Fair enough.
I gotta be honest, Urbarask was already the worst Praetor the first time around, and it's looking an awful lot like he's gonna be the worst Praetor the second time around.
Yeah, it is a little tough to be our red friend, I think. Again, first time around wasn't really a fair fight, right? The other 4 are obscene, absolutely obscene, and I wish they, did something a little cooler with this guy, because, I don't think this is it.
I don't think that this is bad enough that I think it's a bad card. I think this makes a lot of lists. I think it's a good enough draw engine on a fairly good body that disrupts your opponents enough to be a problem. But the fact that they can play it that turn kind of doesn't quite hit right for me. If anything, I'd almost want it to be like they exile it until the end of their turn, then they put it into their hand, kind of thing, But
that'd be neat.
I don't see the value there. Any case, folks, we got one more in the main set we want to talk about. You know it. You love it. It's a big dragon. It's Ziatora, the Incinerator. 3 black, red, green, flying 6/6. At the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice another creature. When you do, Ziatora the Incinerator deals damage equal to that creature's power to any target, and you create 3 treasures. That's just good. It's like Corvald's little sister, I guess. Ziatora, maybe female. It doesn't matter. Point is, do you ever play this over Corvald?
No. Right. It's limited to once, right at the beginning of your end step.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's neat for sure. I think it probably does something because it is like an end step trigger. I imagine maybe some like what's his name? Kresh, the blood braided blood,
Kresh the blood
whatever. Like that style of like Jund Fling deck maybe switches to this at its head instead, to effectively just fling at end step and then create 3 treasures, or goes in the 99 of that style of deck again. But yeah, not crazy about this card.
It just doesn't seem to have the oomph to get you over the top. Is really what it boils down to for me. It's don't get me wrong, it's 6 mana, 6/6 flyer. That's good. I just want something a little more. The treasure payoff is okay. It's just not quite as good as other options that you've got. And I think that's maybe the most unfortunate thing about it, is that it just doesn't quite have that little piece extra to make things go. And so,
yeah,
that's how I feel about it. All right, folks, we're, I guess, technically the halfway point, maybe a little bit over the halfway point, maybe a little bit under the halfway point. I don't know yet. But we are going to be switching over to the Commander set cards. Those are the cards that are coming in the Commander decks alongside the main set. In the meantime, if you have yet to like the video, please do so. It increases the reach on YouTube, gets more people in here, and exposes us to more folks. In the meantime, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe and ring that bell. And if you want to see any of our other stuff, check out the description. We've got a lot of stuff going on down there. But we do want to say in the meantime to all 68 of you hanging out with us tonight, thanks so much for hanging. I've been having a great time, and I hope you are too. So let's get moved over on our tech pieces here. That up that way. Boop.
Vamping time.
Yeah.
How's everybody doing? I was taking a look. I think it looks like Scryfall maybe got there.
Maybe. Let's see.
They have 32 cards from today. I don't know if that's all of them, though.
Yep, they did get there. They did, in fact, get there. Did they get there? I can't tell.
Let me try to do some quick maths. So, how many cards is it supposed to be? New cards, right? That's 32.
It does not look like it's all of them.
No, I don't think it's all of them.
No. Well, we're going to stick with the relatively not so great Wizard site, folks. So, please stick with us here. I'm trying to make this work as best I can. So, let's see here. Oh, dear. The Wizard site does not work with the card fetcher. Oh, no. Is there a way for me to get the non-mobile version? Nope. That's okay. We've got another option, and we'll go to it right now.
Vamping. It wouldn't be a spike feed of stream if we didn't have technical difficulties.
That's absolutely right. Not at all. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a window capture. There we go.
I see a window.
There we go. That's almost like a professional looking streamer might have.
Hell yeah.
Start with that.
That's close enough to me.
Good enough for the girls we go with, huh, Elliot? All right.
Yep.
All right. So let's start off with Aerial Extortionist, a 5-mana bird soldier flying 4/3. Elliot, tell me about Aerial Extortionist and why it's kind of cool.
Yeah, this card is like kind of crazy. So as you mentioned, flying 4/3. When it ETBs or deals combat damage to a player, exile up to 1 target non-land permanent, so O-Ring. For as long as that card remains exiled, its owner may cast it. Okay, weird. Whenever another player casts a spell from anywhere other than their hand, draw a card. Okay, I'm back on board.
I kind of like
when
this because of the last clause there.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I was going to say as well. We were kind of looking at this card earlier in our group chat, and it was like, okay, 5 mana, repeatable O-Ring kind of thing, but lots of people are doing enter the battlefield type stuff in Commander right now, right? So, like, the fact that it allows them to recast it, even though you get to draw a card if they do recast it, you gotta be picky choosy with your targets on this thing. That being said, I think it is probably a great card. I think it'll do a lot of work in a lot of decks, probably.
I think it's the kind of card that a lot of white players have been asking for, even if they didn't know it. Because I like what they've been doing recently with white in the last couple sets, where it says, okay, we're going to do a thing, and if you break the thing, I get a card. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I don't hate it.
Yeah.
Let's keep rolling. Let's go down to Angelic Sleuth.
Oh, that worked really nicely. But
what can I say? I gotta be good at something. Angelic Sleuth is 2 and a white for an Angelic Advisor flying 2/3 with whenever another permanent you control leaves the battlefield, if it had counters on it, investigate. More white card draw.
Yeah.
Really slow, bad card draw, but it's more white card draw.
Yeah, can't really complain. They're giving you options or whatever, right? This is similar to like what are they? Like Mentor of the Meek style effect, right? Where it's like if your deck was already doing this thing, have some card draw, maybe.
Sure, why not?
Yeah.
I don't hate this, especially with the focus on the interaction between counters and tokens. I like how this goes together. I will say that I think this is probably a little weaker than I'd like to see it be. I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world if this was just whenever another permanent you control leaves the battlefield. But on the other hand, because it is another permanent you control, your fetch lands do this if they have a counter on them for some reason. If you're, say, your Bajuka Bog. No, not Bajuka Bog. What's the one you always love? They have depletion counters. Peter Bog.
Oh, Peter, my good friend, Peter Bog.
If your good friend Peter Bog gets sauced out with a counter on him. There you go. But very narrow. I don't see a lot of people keeping this around. I think it has to be sort of a thing that you intentionally look for if you need it for some reason. So
right. It is interesting, right? It doesn't say non-token permanent.
Mm-hmm.
So again, like I'm seeing this as some kind of mono white or white X token style deck, puts a bunch of +1/+1 counters from, Cathar's Crusade type effect, and then because they all die, you get a bunch of, unfortunately, it is clues, right? It's not just draw a card or something like that, but
on the other hand, you could slam this in with like Ginny May or whatever her name is and have a pretty decent time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Next up, let's talk about Boss's Chauffeur. 4 and a white for a 0/0 elf citizen, but it enters the battlefield with a number of 1/1 counters on it equal to 1 plus the number of other creatures you control. So itself plus the number of other creatures you control. Alliance, whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on Boss's Chauffeur. When it dies, create a 1/1 green and white citizen creature token for each 1/1 counter on it. It's just a bus. It's a bus that says, I already come in full, I get more full, if I leave, here's all the guys that was inside me. It's great.
Yeah. This is the kind of card I like to call an army in a can. And I am slapping it into my Aristocrats deck almost certainly, because, again, does not say non-token on that second line there. It's any creature. So, you play Tukatung Thalid, and you sacrifice it, and the token enters. This guy gets +2/+2. Two counters.
I wish I had a Tukatung, that's for sure.
Oh, Tukatung.
Let's talk about Contractual Safeguard. 2 and a white for an instant with addendum, which means if you cast this spell during your main phase, put a shield counter on a creature you control. Choose a kind of counter on a creature you control. Put a counter of that kind on each other creature you control. I like this design a lot. This is great.
I think the funniest thing to do with this is obviously just the classic Boros charm into Armageddon, or I guess in this case it would just be Wrath of God or whatever, right? But put a shield, like do it in your own main phase, put a shield counter on every creature you control, and then wrath the board and kill everything except your own stuff, and then kill everybody.
It's got a lot of really cool tech. I think this is the kind of spell that I really want to copy. I really wish it was 1 mana less so I could have it under Isochron Scepter, just so I can proliferate my counters all over the place. I don't even care about the addendum at that point. But one thing I will start talking about real quick at this point, because we're starting to see it with addendum here, Chris Mooney, the lead designer on the Commander decks this time around, they were out on Twitter talking about how they really fought to get a whole bunch of old named mechanics into this particular set, and you're going to see it as we keep going through it. There's a ton of hits from the past, just all over the place. And as you'll see in our set review, we also talk about how much hideaway there is in the main set. So if you're a patron, that'll be going up here literally 5 minutes after we're done tonight. I'm going to post it live, but everybody else, you'll see that on the channel on Thursday. So let's keep moving here with Damn Verdict.
Damn.
That's right. Damn Verdict is 3 white for a sorcery that says destroy all creatures with no counters on them.
Love it. Love conditional wraths for, again, this is just, oh, your deck does counter things? A wrath.
Yeah, exactly. It's just one-sided board wipe, but for tokens, nothing to hate there. Let's keep moving on.
Yeah.
Next up is Grand Crescendo. X, white, white. For an instant, create X 1/1 citizens. Creatures you control gain indestructible till end of turn. How often?
I like a discard, Alex.
I like this card as well. How often do you cast it for 0? Or for X equals 0?
Probably a lot, honestly.
Probably a lot.
Yeah,
I
probably
love this.
like absolutely a non-zero amount, and probably a lot. My favorite part about this card is, let's say you have 7 mana and your opponent attacks you with a 5/5. You make 5 indestructible citizens and block their creature.
Oh, that's gross. You're right, but that's gross. Wow.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that. That's a hell of an okie doke right there. That's good stuff. That's really good stuff, actually. Well, let's keep moving. Next up is Jailbreak. For 1 and a white sorcery. Return target permanent card in an opponent's graveyard to the battlefield under their control. When that permanent enters the battlefield, return up to 1 target permanent card with equal or lesser mana value from your graveyard to the battlefield. I feel like this is just Secret Rendezvous, but for Reanimate, right?
Yeah, this one's weird. Yeah. This one is them trying to be cute with their commanders about politics, the shenanigans, and I'm not buying it.
You're not buying
this card sucks.
This card sucks.
No, this card sucks.
Okay, you're not in for it. Okay. You see, I could see this being okay so long as you were playing against someone who had like really big dumb creatures that didn't do a lot, and you getting like, say, a Sun Titan or something like that back out of the yard. But maybe I'm wrong about that.
Sure, yeah. I mean, again, there's kind of the funny scenario where you could, return their 7-drop or whatever, right? And then wrath the board, and then get back your Sun Titan.
Exactly. But in any case, it does require that the other permanent actually make it onto the battlefield, so you can't have any...
wait! Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm dumb. I'm dumb as bricks, bro. I thought it was when their permanent that you returned dies, you get your thing back.
No.
But it's just they get a thing, you get a thing.
Yes.
Oh, okay, yeah. This card's sweet. This card's 2 mana? What the heck? This card's cool. Yeah.
It's
okay,
cool.
never mind.
It's definitely cool. I don't
I'm
think
back on board.
I don't think it's good enough to be like, this has to go in every deck. I think you need a very specific kind of game plan, and worse, you kind of need your opponents to be on a specific kind of game plan for it to really get any value. So I think it's narrow, but if you're in the right kind of narrow, for example, if you had like, say, a Esper Mill deck, and you had your opponents milling their stuff out, then maybe this is the kind of thing that you can put in there, but it's just a little awkward. So
yeah, I'm much higher on this card than I was at the start of me talking about it, because I learned how to read the card. But yeah, still nothing crazy.
This card I'm super high on because it is everything I want white to be doing. Master of Ceremonies. 3 and a white for a Rhino Druid 3/4. At the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent chooses money, friends, or secrets. For each player who chooses money, you and that player each create a treasure token. For each player who chooses friends, you and that player each create a 1/1 citizen. For each player that chose secrets, you and that player each draw a card.
Love it.
Love it. It's so good. It's the kind of card that sticks around forever. It gets you value at the same time as getting your opponent's value. It's almost always doing something that's relevant to you, because how many white decks don't care to have creatures around, right? And also, that's probably the least chosen methodology. Best of all, it actually triggers when it should at the beginning of your upkeep, so you get all of that value from all 3 of your opponents to start your turn. I like that a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, any other thoughts on it?
Nope. Yeah, everything you said. Love this card. Gonna probably slam it in a white deck.
There you go. Next up, we've got Resourceful Defense. That's 2 and a white for an enchantment that says, whenever a permanent you control leaves the battlefield, if it had counters on it, put those counters on target permanent you control. 4 and a white, move any number of counters from target permanent you control to another target permanent you control. This seems great. This seems really good with Luxior, for example, on your animated Planeswalker.
Yeah, this card seems crazy, right? Even just the fact that you can just, again, any Planeswalker, right? Just move from that Planeswalker to this other Planeswalker, or whatever, right? Like, there's like, going to be some shenanigans with this card. For sure.
What's it called? Ozolith. But broad spectrum.
Similar.
Yeah.
Similar.
And
yeah.
so I like that quite a bit. I think this is the type of card that ends up in a more definitely in 1/1 counters decks. But if they keep playing around with these ability word counters, I think this is sort of a key piece of it. So we'll see if they keep doing those things. Next up, we've got Skyboon Evangelist.
I've never seen this card. Evangelist.
Yeah. 4 and a white for a Bird Advisor 3/3 with flying. When it enters the battlefield, ready for another old keyword, support 6.
6 is a big number.
Yes, it is. Whenever a creature with a counter on it attacks one of your opponents, that creature gains flying until end of turn.
Oh.
Yeah, put a 1/1 counter on each of up to 6 other target creatures. Up to.
Okay.
Yeah, right?
What is yeah, so this card is like Abzan Falconer on crack cocaine, right? Is that what
a little bit, yeah, a little bit, right? Because you're not getting the automatic value that's in perpetuity; it still has to be around, and it only it only happens when a creature with a counter attacks one of your opponents, not just your stuff. All creatures with counters attacking your opponents.
Oh, I get you. I get you.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's got a lot of different utility. I like this design quite a bit. I do like that they're giving white some more of these like actually useful political tools to get stuff done. So I think this is fun. I can't see putting this again in a lot of other decks that aren't doing counter shenanigans, but it comes with enough inbuilt support that it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, this card looks solid.
Oh, support doesn't have to hit just your creatures either.
Oh yeah.
Other target creatures. You could give it to opponent's creatures too if you wanted to. That is some interesting stuff right there. I like that a lot. Let's move on.
Very cool.
Smuggler's Share. Hello, raccoons. How are you? It's 2 and a white for an enchantment that says, at the beginning of each end step, draw a card for each opponent who drew 2 or more cards this turn. Then create a treasure token for each opponent who had 2 or more lands enter the battlefield under the control this turn. I like the effect. I hate the bookkeeping.
Yeah, again, it is kind of that awkward thing that white and I guess subsequently blue with like Rhystic Study, Mystic Remora. Obviously, I'm talking about Smothering Tithe has gotten pushed into where it's like, did you draw 2 cards? Did you play 2 lands? I'm gonna do the thing.
Yeah.
Which I think this card's interesting too because I actually don't. Well, okay, draw 2 or more cards. That'll happen, right? Yes. That'll happen a lot. Play 2 or more lands.
Well, no, enter the battlefield. They didn't have to play them. They just had to have them come in. So if
fetch,
okay.
You're good. If it's a fetch, okay, never mind. Yeah, this card's sweet.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I just don't like the fact that you have to track it all. It's going to be a lot of, oh, wait, did you do the thing? And then who knows? Right. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't, especially in the late game. Anyway, it's fine enough. I'm glad it exists. I wish it was templated in a way that was less arduous. Anyway, let's keep moving. Whew. Lord, I've been waiting to talk about him for literally 2 days. It's Benny Brax, Zoologist, 3 and a white, legendary creature, elf druid, convoke, 3/2. At the beginning of each end step, if you created a token this turn, draw a card. Yes! Yes.
Yeah, this card slaps.
Card draw. White card draw.
White card draw.
Period. I just like it. It's good. It's so good. Arctic Blast mentioning that Smuggler's Share breaks parity on Howling Mine is a great point. But Benny Brax, in my opinion, is exactly what people have been asking for a long, long time. It's got the Convoke to help pay for it. So even after he starts costing more because he gets removed because you're drawing too many cards, your creatures that you're inevitably going to be making with your token synergies are going to be getting him back onto the field. I just like it. I pure straight like it. Give me more of this kind of stuff. And you're absolutely right, Arctic Blast. It just says token, so your Smothering Tithe coming out on everybody else's turn also draws you a card.
Yeah, it is each end step. Your Smothering Tithe or your Smuggler's Share making you a treasure token.
Yeah. And so the one downside, if I remember correctly, is that this is one of the set booster mythics. So it's going to be a little bit less common to run into. I don't think it was on the commander list, but I could be wrong about that. Regardless,
I believe you are correct that it is. Yes, Segunda Quinta in our chat just said as well. Set booster only.
Oh, okay, there you go. So that's not so great. But on the other hand, they've been putting one or more of these. I think what was last sets? It was Goshen Tai of actually being a commander.
Yep.
Right. And so it doesn't seem like they're unavailable. It just doesn't seem like they're as available. Keeper of the Cord would also work, TJ Neal. That's an excellent point. Yeah.
Oh,
so
we can just be mono white tokens on your turn deck.
You're not going to hear me complain about it, that's for sure. Let's keep going here. We've got Tenuous Truce as the next one. I kind of like the idea behind this one. Go for
this one. This one sucks for sure. This one, I think that I have read this card, and I think that this card sucks. So this card says 2 mana, enchant opponent. At the beginning of enchanted opponent's end step, you and that player each draw a card. When you attack enchanted opponent or a planeswalker they control, or when they attack you or a planeswalker you control, sacrifice Tenuous Truce. I think this card sucks.
What's wrong with it?
It's at the beginning of their end step, not even your own, that you would get to draw the card.
Sure.
And what? They're just gonna attack you.
They might, but they also might want to draw a card.
Like, sure.
Well, I think that's what's good about it, actually. Obviously, this is not good in a lot of different metas. But let me put this to you.
Okay.
I'm not saying this is a good idea. I'm just saying it could happen. How often do you really attack in CEDH?
I mean, it depends if there's the Tymna deck at the table, blah, blah, blah.
Sure. I'm not going to get into the weeds on that, but there's not a lot of creatures that are looking to get sideways, right?
Typically.
And especially if you're putting this on the player to your right, you're going to maximize the amount of uptime that you have and minimize the amount of uptime that you're down the card. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So don't get me wrong, you're investing 2 mana. I don't think this is something you want to draw late game. If you're not playing this on turn 2, you probably don't want to play it at all. But I don't think it's dog, I guess is what I'm getting at. This has a place. I especially think this has a place if you're playing a Pillow Fort style deck. If they can't attack you, if they can't make the thing go away, then is it a little bit better?
That's funny, yeah. Just like slap this and whatever it's called, Sphere of Safety or whatever.
Exactly. Sphere of Safety was exactly what I was thinking. Now, I don't think there's a lot of issues, in my opinion, with running something alongside this, like a Narset, for example, because they've already going to have been drawn their card for that. They will have already drawn a card for their turn. And now they just get salted out of their pseudo monarch that they only have because they haven't attacked you.
Right. Yeah, so, Narset or Spirit of the Labyrinth or whoever, right? Yeah. So, fair enough.
And you're preserving. So don't get me wrong. Am I ever going to put this in a list? Almost certainly not. But I don't think it's as bad as we might have initially reacted to it.
Fair. I can respect that.
Yeah. So, all right, folks, let's move on to blue as our next set. And we're going to start off with Aven Courier. 1 and a blue for a Bird Advisor flyer. That's a 1/1. Hey, look, it's a flying man. This flying man says, whenever Aven Courier attacks, choose a counter on a permanent you control. Put a counter of that kind on target permanent you control if it doesn't have a counter of that kind on it. Wow, sorry, my brain shut off. Copy a counter from a permanent you control and put it on another permanent that doesn't have one. Yes, Elliot, go.
Alex, I want to put this in my stupid Myojin Divinity counter deck and put Divinity counters from the one Myojin onto the other one that I just activated.
Approved.
Thanks. It's a 2 mana 1/1 flyer.
Good.
This card's great.
It's good. I like this a lot, actually. especially since especially if we keep playing around with fancy counters, like if these shield counters, which I really hope they do. I hope they don't make it. Oh, only Halo can make the shields. I really hope they keep shield counters around because, like you'll hear me say on the main set review, I think they're the version of indestructible that we want to play with in the game. So. It's just a good call overall. And can we get another quick thumbs up shout out to Arctic Blast in the chat for keeping up with cards? I appreciate you, my friend. You're the best.
There's Arctic. Boom.
Let's talk about Cephalid Face Take. You know what? You talked a little bit about how I didn't want to like the new Cephalids. I agree with you. This doesn't look like a Cephalid at all. It just looks like a random lady.
Well, that's because this one took their
Oh,
face.
is it? Okay, crazy. 2 and a blue for a Cephalid Rogue, 1/4 Cephalid Place Taker can't be blocked. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may have it become a copy of another target creature until end of turn, except it's 1/4 and has this creature can't be blocked.
Probably something cute you can do with this, and something that does something when it hits somebody, right?
Sure.
You just make it a 1/4 unblockable, have it hit them.
Oh, that's a
Not
real nice Master of Cruelties you got over there.
Yeah, fair. It doesn't. Well, it kind of does, I guess. It is at beginning of combat, so you would still only be allowed to attack with the Master of Cruelties alone, but it would be unblockable, which is pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. Realistically, I think that this is the type of card that fits into that control-y Esper shell that we talked about for Rafine a little bit ago, because it's something that can attack for free. It's something that can use other opponents' value against them, and like Royal Jaeger just said in chat, infect.
Well, but it makes itself a 1/4.
Sure.
I guess you can. You could beginning of combat.
Because you're going to connive on top of something like this, and those are counters. And base 1/4 doesn't mean nothing if you're adding 6 to it.
Yeah, very true, very true.
Yeah, good Orvar target, says Bradley Cooper. I think I agree. I agree that this is not.
I think that's the real Bradley Cooper.
It could be. We don't know. Hey, Bradley Cooper, are you real? If you don't say anything, we're going to assume you are.
Like the one that was in the movie with Lady Gaga.
Lady Gaga? It can become
Lady
Phage.
Gaga.
Oh, actually,
it could
become
become Phage.
Stuff. Let's keep moving here and talk about change of plans. X1 and a blue for an instant. Each of X target creatures you control connive. You may have any number of them phase out. God, I love phase out.
Yeah, this card's pretty neat. It's like a really expensive save your stuff from board wipes, right? But yeah, it seems like a cool little card because it's a really expensive save your stuff from board wipes that also draws you X cards or loots you X cards, I guess, right? But
yeah, I think it's fine. It'd be really expensive to save stuff in blue for that. So, and good news, Bradley Cooper is real. So if we were worried about that, don't. Next up is
real is not what I meant. Do we know that real is not what I meant?
Yes, we do. We're just making fun of you, bud. Extravagant Replication. 4 blue for an enchantment that says at the beginning of your upkeep, create a token that's a copy of another target permanent, non-land permanent, you control.
I think this one is also not very exciting. 6 mana.
Do something enchantment, but not until your next turn.
Right, do nothing until your upkeep. I hate that, right? I wish this was beginning of combat, end step, right? But, yes, Alex.
Can I make copies of Paradox Haze?
Oh, you can. Okay, never mind. I'm back on board for this card.
I'm not even 1,000% sure what that would do, to be honest.
You just get more upkeeps, right?
Yeah, I think you just get more upkeeps.
So you wait. Wait.
Nope. We're not going down this rabbit hole. Somebody go look up Extravagant Replication and Paradox Haze on your own time. We're moving on.
At the beginning of Enchanted players. Okay. Paradox Haze is just first upkeep each turn. That player gets an additional upkeep step.
Okay, so it wouldn't trigger.
Oh, okay. No, wait.
Okay.
But then at the beginning of your next first upkeep, you would have 3 Paradox Hazes. Right? Because, so you play Paradox Haze. You play Extravagant Replication.
Doesn't Paradox Haze, isn't it an aura?
It is an aura.
Okay, we'll have to check. We'll have to check the release notes, but there's a chance that means that there's no point at which it would attach, which might mean that it doesn't work at all. Right? I can't imagine they'll leave that way, but maybe they might. Sphinx of the Second Sun. Sphinx of the Second Sun, Mickey. Anyway, we're going to keep moving on. Flawless Forgery. 3 blue with Casualty 3, which is sacrifice a creature of at least 3 power, and you can copy this spell. When you do, you may choose another target for the copy. Exile target instant or sorcery card from an opponent's graveyard. Copy that card. You may cast the copy without paying its mana cost. This goes with Errant, the tap copy commander.
Yep. yeah, this is just, I guess not strictly better, but it's memory plunder from Shadowmoor or whatever that is. But you can sometimes do it twice. I think that's cool. I think it's a cool little card. I like bribery and those kinds of effects, like play your opponent's decks. I like the Dimir. Some people don't because it does what it does, but I personally am a fan of the Dimir, like play your opponent's decks style decks, because they infinitely scale to the power level of the table. Right? If you are playing the other 3 decks at the table, you never know what you're going to do in the game, first of all, and nobody can ever complain that your deck is overpowered because you're just playing their deck.
So Bradley Cooper brings up an excellent point, and I want to just go back and check. I believe Extravagant Replication has to be another target line.
Another target.
There we go. Just wanted to make sure that was the case, because otherwise that would get out of hand.
Well, but if you copy if you copy enchantment the copy enchantmented version is another non-land permanent, right? And then they could just target each other.
But the problem is then the copy enchantment effect that makes the copy. If you target the copy enchantment again with the original one, you get a copy enchantment, if I remember the rules for that correctly.
Oh, true, probably.
Anyway, we're moving on. Layers of Dung. Don't do that. Okay, we're going to talk about Into Deep. Blue for enchantment
into
aura.
Deep and I'm trying.
And that's too much. We're on YouTube. This has split second, which I'm a fan of. I love this line of text, and I love it for a reason I'll explain. Enchant creature, planeswalker, or clue. Enchanted permanent is a colorless clue artifact with 2 sacrifices artifact, draw a card, and loses all other abilities. Instead of making it able to enchant artifacts, they specifically left it as clues so you couldn't target artifacts. That's great.
Yes.
That's great.
But it makes it so that it doesn't immediately fall off.
Yeah, immediately fall off if you did.
Yeah.
But
if anybody's wondering why clue is in there, but I do like that. I think this card is a freaking banger, along with Witness Protection, right? Like, we got 2 just insane, like, better Lignifies or whatever, right?
No,
like, this one's sweet.
I actually think this is a fairer Lignify, because realistically, green and or white should have the solid Lignifies. I think blue should have ones that work more like this, Minimus Capture, where it turns into a treasure. So if you get your commander stuck under one of these, they have a clear path out that doesn't involve combat or blocking or sacrifice. This just says, okay, you can have your commander back after you draw a card. Goodbye. I like that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I guess I don't want to speak out of my ass, but I think this is one of the few, or the only, that I see, or I remember seeing, which is why I'm saying this, split second card that is not an instant or does not have flash.
That's fair. I think that might be accurate, because definitely flash is one of them, because there's the Angelic Avenger creature with split second, I think.
Yeah.
But that's pretty cool. I like it. Let's talk about Mask of the Schemer for 2 and a blue. It's an artifact equipment. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, it connives X, where X is the amount of damage dealt to that player. Boo. That's that's pretty good.
Yes, Hermit Druid Nathan wants to slap this on an Ishai, and I cannot blame him.
Oh, that's split second Dark Steel Mutation effect is really good. I think the only thing I don't like about this specific card is that it's happening as a result of damage, and that doesn't feel super blue.
Yeah, right. The fact that it is mono blue is a little weird.
The rest of it's fine. The rest of it's
like Mask of Memory is, like, I guess similar to this or whatever, right? But that just happens on attack, right?
Exactly. It's the fact that it's the amount of damage that's making me go, eh. But it's not enough for me to hate it. I really do like the cost line on this. 3 mana to cast, 2 mana to play. It means that it's probably going to be a fairly useful early and late game piece. So I think it's right in that sweet spot for equipment.
Definitely. The thing that I like about this, if I may, is it goes really nicely with my favorite Voltron commander, Ruhan of the Fomori, in that it will deal 7 and then draw 7 cards, discard 7 cards, put let's say 7 +1/+1 counters on to Ruhan of the Fomori, and then attack the same person that you just attacked for 7 for 14 and kill them with commander damage, and then draw 14 cards, discard 14 cards, put 14 counters on Ruhan, attack somebody for 28.
Have you considered being something less than completely and totally evil all the time?
No.
Oh, okay.
Ruhan attacks randomly, though, so it's not my fault, you know?
It's still a little bit your fault, though. It's
It's not my fault.
a little bit your fault.
So is it is bad of me, right? Yeah, I'm a bad person. Because I wanted to make the Ruhan deck because I'm like, oh, he's big dude that attacks randomly, but then I make it pointless that he attacks randomly because you just give him +4/+4 and double strike.
Yeah, because you just kill people. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, doesn't matter who you're attacking if they're dead.
Yeah. Again, folks.
I
I see folks in chat telling me that it feels blue. It definitely feels blue. My only quibble with it is that it's basing the effect off of the damage it dealt. That's the only part that doesn't feel blue to me. The rest of it absolutely feels blue. I'm not quibbling about that part. I just wish there was a different way of informing the X. That's it. Anyway, let's keep moving on. We've got Shield Broker, 3 blue. For a Cephalid Advisor, 3/4, when it enters the battlefield, put a shield counter on target non-commander creature you don't control. You gain control of that creature for as long as it has a shield counter on it.
Love that. Steals your thing, and oh my goodness, I have the hiccups, Alex.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, steals the thing. If you have a removal spell, use it on your own thing. Gets rid of the shield counter, you can have it back. I think that's very cool.
Mini Gibbleflab has an excellent suggestion, which is give it Assault Suit. Yeah. I like that a lot. Let's keep moving. Let's talk about Sinister Concierge. 1 and a blue for a human wizard, 2/1. When it dies, you may exile it and put 3 time counters on it. If you do, exile up to 1 target creature and put 3 time counters on it. Each card exiled this way that doesn't have Suspend gains Suspend.
Sorry, yeah, you go. I go.
This is great.
Yeah, I think this card's really neat.
Kidnap someone else's creature because you blew mine up? Sure, why not? They'll both be back at about the same time.
Yeah.
Feels good to me.
Yeah, I think it's really neat.
Yeah.
It's like blue path to exile.
Yeah, it's very and a very blue effect on it too, because it doesn't go away forever. Just till the time counters run out.
Right.
So
yeah,
kind of a huge fan of that.
Cute little card. Very nice.
Well, I do my best, Mini. Next up, we've got Skyway Robber. It's 3 and a blue for a bird rogue 3/3 with flying and escape. 3 and a blue to escape with exile 5 other cards from your graveyard. When it escapes with, whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may cast an artifact, instant, or sorcery spell from among exiled cards without paying their mana cost. Put it in my graveyard. Self-mill this land. I like that a lot.
It's really cool. I love the like weird permanent flashback or whatever, right? Like, yeah, I think it's really cool. Like,
it takes the whole idea of escape, which is normally you're paying extra to get this, right? It just flips it on its head. It says as long as you've got instants, artifacts, or sorceries in there, you just get to recast them.
Yeah,
and critically, those spells, the instants and sorceries, don't get exiled at the end of it. They go back in the yard.
Whatever. Yeah, they would, right? Yeah, very cool.
Anyway,
I like that. I like that.
I do feel a little bad that you have to hit to make them happen. But by the same token, if it didn't have that, it'd be completely and wildly busted. So,
yeah, definitely.
I think this is actually a very solid thing for your self-mill type strategies. I think this is actually maybe pretty solid in a lot of different types of decks that run a lot of instants and sorceries that you want to get repeat value out of. I'm not sure how often I'm going to see it up at the top ends of the format, but I think this is going to be sort of a perennial, oh, you're a spell slinger deck. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, yeah. I agree with Mini Gibbleflab. I wish this was an attack trigger rather than a contact trigger.
Yeah. I get, like you kind of said, though, I think it would be broken if it was that, right?
It
like, I'm thinking again, I'm just going to escape a time walk, and I'm going to... Gonna cast time walks.
Elliot, stop casting Time Walk.
You can't make me.
I can make you. And Dredge is
Counter-
another X.
I was gonna say counter them if you must.
Next up, we've got Storm of Forms. 3 and a blue for an instant. When you cast the spell, copy it for each kind of counter among permanents you control. You may choose new targets for the copies. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Itty bitty Cyclone Rift.
I mean, maybe not that itty bitty. We'll get to him in a bit, I guess. But this Parry the Pulverizer deck wants to have a bunch of different kinds of counters.
You're right about that.
This is maybe just Cyclonic Rift, homie.
I mean, it might be just Cyclonic Rift, but I don't think it ever gets up to the same level of impact as a Cyclonic Rift. I do think it's kind of neat, though. It's got enough utility that I think, oh, this is interesting. I don't see myself cutting Cyclonic Rift for this ever, though. Even in the Parry the Pulverizer desk. It just... Yeah.
I think I'm going to put this card in, if I end up building it, this Parry the Pulverizer, like every counter type deck or whatever, right? For the cute meme of maybe I have 20 different kinds of counters in play, like boop, 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 boop. But
yeah, it's more of a meme than I think a real effective card. Let's move on to Swindler's Scheme. I can't say that. Swindler's Scheme. 2 and a blue for an inch. That's rude. Whenever an opponent casts a spell from their hand, you may reveal the top card of your library. If it shares a card type with that spell, counter that spell, and that opponent may cast the revealed card without paying its mana cost. Whew.
Yeah. Why not? Just give your opponents your cards.
I mean, there's one deck I can think of where I think I might want to play this.
Okay, hit me.
Zedru.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. They play a creature, you reveal a creature, they get it, you draw an extra card off Zedru.
Yeah, it's exactly. You're absolutely right, Minnie. It's counterbalance, but giving stuff away. This card goes in your mono blue Teferi CEDH deck, eh? I'm skeptical, but I'm willing to see it.
I guess I can see it. Well, I don't know. The thing that I think makes this card not great.
3-drop Teferi. Right, so they can't cast at instant speed, which means they don't get to cast it.
Sure.
Yep.
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, yeah, it goes with any of those style of cards, right? Yeah, Draneth, all those guys.
Yep, that makes sense. Oh, you're right. It's a Maycast, Krovax. That's going to mess up the Zedru plan. Yep. Anyway, pretty narrow.
Yeah. Seems weird.
Seems
like a weird little card.
Let's keep moving. Oh, wait.
That's actually the last of the blue.
Let's go on to black, and let's pick up the pace just a smidge. We do want to be in bed before night. I'm old now. Next up is Bellowing Mauler, 4 and a black for an Ogre Warrior, 4/6. At the beginning of your end step, each player loses 4 life unless they sacrifice a non-token creature.
Great.
Fine.
Great card. I love taxing people's boards.
Yeah. I don't see it being super impactful. It's good.
Nope.
Let's move on.
Just a big dude that does big dude things.
Big dude things.
This card, though.
Body count. 2 and black for an instant for Spectacle for a black. I love Spectacle. Is one of my favorite things from War of the Spark? Era? Time?
Ravnica Allegiance. Yeah. Ravnica Allegiance.
Draw a card for each creature that died under your control this turn. Love it. Big fan.
I'm going to put this in Aristocrats.
Heck yeah, you are.
You see that one coming?
Yeah. Just super good. Super
really good card.
Let's talk about Dogged Detective. 1 and a black for Human Rogue. When Dogged Detective enters the battlefield, surveil 2. Another great one from that block. Whenever an opponent draws their second card each turn, you may return Dogged Detective from your graveyard to your hand. It's a 2/1. Another in the series of, if you do something, I get this zombie back.
Yeah, Bloodghast-esque or whatever, right? I like that it's a 2-mana surveil 2.
Yeah.
I like that it's a body, a 2/1 body that can chump something or whatever, right? Yeah. Seems cute.
Yeah.
This works with Wilhelt's. I suppose it does.
Next up is Lethal Scheme. It's 2 black with Convoke. Destroy target creature or planeswalker. Each creature that convoked Lethal Scheme connives. So this is really going to pay you off much like the Loxodon. Venerated Loxodon used to pay you off for convoking. So I like that that's in this design space. I think that's slick.
Yeah, I think the fact that this can, in theory, be free
Yep.
if you have 4 black creatures or whatever, right? 2
Yep.
black creatures, 2 whatever, and draw 4 cards or loot 4 cards or whatever, right? Like, that's kind of kooky.
I'll say
Kind
it's
of crazy.
It's got enough utility on it that even if I have to pay black for destroy target creature, draw 2 cards, discard 2 cards, potentially put 2/1 counters, I think I play this quite a bit. I think this is a good piece of removal.
Yeah, I think it's really good.
Next up, let's talk about Make an Example. 3 and a black for a sorcery. Each opponent separates the creatures they control into 2 piles. We get to fact or fiction opponent's creatures. For each opponent, you choose one of their piles. Each opponent sacrifices the creatures in their chosen pile. I like it as each.
Yep. This card is really cool. Like you said, fact or fiction-esque cards. Love it. And especially ones that make people make really tough choices with their creatures or whatever.
Yeah.
Kind of like the body guy or whatever, bellowing mauler, right? Just controlling people's boards.
Yep.
Love it.
I also like the fact that they don't have to be equal sized, that people can be like 1/8 kind of thing, or they can spread things equally if they want to. I think there's a lot of different ways that this goes. I will say that having every single opponent do this feels like they could have just made this cheaper and made it one opponent instead. This is going to take a while to resolve no matter how quick people are at it. So
yeah, and especially as the board states get more complicated, definitely.
Yeah. It's one of those things that I'm not the biggest fan of things that take a long time. So am I going to play this? Probably not, but I wouldn't hate to see it either. Next up is Misfortune Teller. It's 3 and a
Love
black.
that name. First of all, can I just...
Yeah, super good. For a human warlock, 3/1, Death Touch. Whenever Misfortune Teller enters the battlefield and deals combat damage to a player, exile target card from a graveyard. If it was a creature card, create a 2/2 black rogue creature token. If it was a land card, create a treasure token. Otherwise, you gain 3 life. Kind of wacky.
Yeah, 4 mana, 3/1. I wish they gave it Menace instead of Death Touch.
Menace instead of Death Touch is exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
It's fine. ETB's okay.
I guess I'm glad it is not another Bone Miser / Waste Not.
Yes.
You know? Like, I'm glad that it is underwhelming and not busted out of its mind.
I agree with that very much, very, very much. All right, let's keep moving on here. Let's talk about Protection Racket. 2 and a black for an enchantment at the beginning of your upkeep. Repeat the following process for each opponent in turn order. Don't go out of order. Reveal the top card of my library. That player may pay life equal to that card's mana value. If they do, exile that card. Otherwise, put it in your hand. This is cute.
I think this card's pretty cool. It probably goes in Jim's like CMC Matters Vial Smasher deck.
I say that's like the only thing I can think of, because this is like the opposite of good in CEDH, because it's just like, oh yeah, exile it, exile it, exile it.
Exactly. It's like, yeah, pay one, right? But yeah, in your like big CMC decks, cool.
Yeah.
I do like that it is technically like it's 3 cards per turn or whatever, right? Like it is for each of your opponents, and yeah, if you're revealing like huge things, like they just let you draw 3 cards, like okay.
I could see this in a very aggro burn down the house kind of deck where you really don't care about what you're getting off the top of your library, and it's just sort of one of those situations where you're just trying to make them pay the life. I don't know that that's the worst thing. As JJ Mickey says, it might go in Yuriko, okay?
Absolutely.
The only problem I can see with that, though, is if they hit your extra turn spells.
Right, they just pay it, right? You need to be pressuring their life totals. I think this is definitely like a Rakdos card or whatever, right? Like you're playing this with Havoc Festival, like cutting everybody to 20 immediately and then revealing a 10 drop, and they're like, oh. Like I cannot pay for this now. And you're like,
GG.
take that.
Yeah, exactly.
So
okay, yeah, sure. Yeah. I could buy that for what it's worth. Let's talk about Waste Management. It's 2 and a black for an instant with kicker, 3 and a black. So total of 7, if I can do the math right. Exile up to 2 cards from a single graveyard. If the spell was kicked, instead exile target player's entire graveyard. Create a 2/2 black rogue creature token for each creature card exiled this way.
Love Graveyard Hate. Love modal Graveyard Hate. Love Graveyard Hate with a sub-theme so that you don't just every deck has to play Bajuka Bog or whatever.
Yeah. I don't like that it costs 7 to make like the real value.
7 is a lot.
At the same time, 2/2 black rogues is pretty good. So, it's fine. Next up is Wave of Rats. It's 3 and a black for a creature that's a rat. It's a trample, 4/2, and got some other stuff. Wave of Rats dies if it's dealt combat damage to a player this turn. Return it to the battlefield under its owner's control with Blitz.
Yeah, this card I think is really cool. I guess, sorry, not really cool, but neat. Because yeah, you pay 5 to blitz it. Let's say you attack, they chump it, they take 2, it dies, you draw a card, it comes back.
Yep, I think that is the best case scenario. The only thing I don't like about it is you can't re-blitz it. You only get to blitz it one time if you're doing what you want it to do.
Right, then every other time they chump it or whatever, it dealt the damage, so it comes back, but you don't get to draw the card again.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair given the stats that we're looking at it here. But yeah, it's fine. Let's keep moving. Let's talk about Writ of Return. 3 black for a sorcery. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped with Cipher. When's the last time you heard the word Cipher on a Magic card?
Well, probably Return to Ravnica.
It's maybe one of my favorite rules pieces because it's basically just like a persistent spell that gets cast when you bought people.
Yeah, I love encoding it onto that creature.
I actually really think that this is a great effect to have for a Cipher piece. It's powerful, it's impactful. It really makes the game revolve around that creature, and I think that's sort of what you're going for if you're going to design a Cipher card, and I think this one hits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this card's great. Yeah. Yeah, that's all I've got. All I've got. Great.
Let's talk about Xander's Pact. It's
it's 4 black for a sorcery with casualty 2. You found it again. Good shit. Oh,
each opponent exiles the top card of the... What's up?
Nothing.
Okay. Each opponent exiles the top card of their library. You may cast spells from among those cards this turn. If you cast a spell this way, pay life equal to that spell's mana value rather than pay its mana cost.
6 mana, sack a 2 power creature, exile 6 things.
Bolas's Citadel? I'd rather have Bolas's Citadel.
It has to hit, right? You could just hit 6 lands.
And you're down a creature now. And you're down a card, and you're down 6.
Card is 6 mana.
Let's be realistic, though. The odds that you hit 6 lands going too deep on everybody's decks is not that great. But by the same token, what are you hitting that's so good that you also want to pay life for it?
Right. Yeah, I think this card is very underwhelming.
I think so in response to top of library tutors, fantastic. Sure. Most other situations, I can think of better things to do. So, yeah, fun, not powerful is a great way to say it, Muffins. Let's talk about Mari, the Killing Cowill. 1 black for a legendary creature, Vampire Assassin. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, exile it with a hit counter on it. Assassins, mercenaries, and rogues you control have Death Touch. And whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, you may remove a hit counter from a card that player owns in exile. If you do, draw a card and create 2 treasure tokens. Quiz time, Elliot. Where have we seen hit counters before?
I don't remember her name, but the blue-black flying thing. Not Atraxa, Atreya?
Errata, I think it is.
Errata, yeah.
Yeah, and so I think this is another set booster. Yes, Arctic says it's a set booster. So I think this makes Errata a little bit stronger. You still have to get Errata to hit to get the last hit in to win against the person. I think it makes those sort of meme decks a little bit more consistent because Etrata.
Oh, Etrata. It is Etrata.
Why did I say Errata? Oh, Errata is the thing that changes things. Anyway, I like this in that deck. I'm not sure I like it as its own thing. Assassins, Mercenaries, and Rogues Tribal is...
I think that's cool. Yeah.
Okay,
that's what I was going to point out is I think this is like just a cool, Assassin, Mercenary, Rogue, Tribal commander, like just hit counters things.
Yeah, I say you can play it alone on that, but I don't know too many mercenaries. I know there's some assassins that are pretty fun, and there's definitely rogues that are fun. But if I'm going to play a rogues deck, I think I'd rather play a rogues deck. Anyway, I think that's the last one. Sure is. So let's move on to red.
Oh my goodness, we got so much to go still, guys. We got red, green, multicolored, and artifacts.
We're only 2 hours in. We'll be fine. Let's talk about Audacious Swappe. It's 3 and a red for Casualty 2. The owner of target non-enchantment permanent shuffles it into their library, then exiles the top card of their library. If it's a land card, they may put it onto the battlefield. Otherwise, they may cast it without paying its mana cost.
It's fixed Chaos Warp, and therefore I hate it because it's worse than Chaos Warp.
I'd rather have Chaos Warp. I do like that you can copy it.
Yeah, for sure.
That I do like. It also has the notable helpfulness of being able to be cast if it hits a instant sorcery. Which
right, but that's what I mean is that's worse than Chaos Warp. If I Chaos Warp your thing and it hits an instant or sorcery, you don't get to cast it.
From a CEDH perspective, I think you're absolutely right. However, what I think this does is it gives less powerful decks more flexibility without being quite so phenomena.
Yeah.
The only other thing I don't like about it is people are probably going to make you perform it the right way if you casualty it rather than the efficient way where you drip the top 2. They're probably going to make you shuffle in between, which... Okay, whatever. Hey, Chase, how you doing? Nice to see you.
Oh, thanks, Chase. I am handsome.
You shut up. You know who they're talking to. Next up is Determined Iteration.
It's me.
Okay, just because you're more handsome than me doesn't mean you get to snake my one compliment. Come on, man. Determined Iteration, 1 and a red for an enchantment at the beginning of combat on your turn. Populate. The token created this way gains haste. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. I love this. I think this is great.
Yeah. I think the fact that this is 2 mana is super powerful.
Super powerful. Especially with all the stuff that we've got going on that cares about tokens in this set. Yeah, now, obviously, if you're bingoed on tokens, that kind of stinks. I wish you could do populate with non-creature tokens, because if you could do this, like, let's say, a treasure, that would give you a little bit more of, like, opportunity to do some fancy stuff. But that's how it is. Oh, apparently you are Chase's favorite Spike, so that's rough. That's rough.
Duh.
Duh.
I think the thing that's really cool about this is with the Royal Jaeger just said it, Felden.
That's an excellent point. That's a really excellent point.
So you Felden like a worm coil, and then you go to combat, determined iteration your worm coil token. Now you've got 2, and then they both die, and they make 2 each.
Yeah, and then you just keep doing it over and over. One other thing you can do with this is, what's that, Rite of the Raging Storm enchantment?
Yeah.
That makes the 5/1s? Yeah.
Just you get 10 to blah blah.
You can populate non-creature token? Well, the reminder text on here says copy of a creature token you control, so if you used to be able to, which I do not remember one way or the other, so I can't say.
Populate has always been creature token.
Okay, I couldn't remember, so. But anyway, the reminder text here does say creature token, so I'm assuming that's the way it works. Any case, let's keep going here and look at Indulge to Excess. Indulge reads 2 and a red for a sorcery that says whenever a creature you control attacks this turn, create a 1/1 green and white citizen creature token that's tapped and attacking. So you can get quite a bit of citizens, if I'm reading this correctly.
Yep. Yeah, it will trigger per creature.
Yeah. Excess says 1 and a red for Aftermath. Cast this spell only from your graveyard, then exile it. Create a treasure token for each creature you controlled that dealt combat damage to a player this turn. That's pretty good.
It is pretty good. It's 3 mana.
Yep.
Make double your creatures, and then in theory make that many treasures.
Yeah.
Right. So 5 mana.
Yeah, if you got through, that could be very powerful. I like that quite a bit. I do appreciate that it shouldn't be abusable, but I wish it was abusable. Like, don't exile this, please, Morrow. Fix that. Anyway, out of the 2 of them, I think I like Excess a little bit more. It's a very, very red and very flavorfully red way of creating treasure tokens. I'm a big fan of that. This with Ishin. TJ, you're my favorite person. Thank you.
Does that work? Does that work the way we want it to?
Does it should say permanent or trigger?
I think so. If a creature attacking causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control, yeah. But yeah.
Well, we got close. No cigar. It's gonna be fine. Thank you again, Arctic. You're such a helper. Industrial Advancement, 3 in a red for an enchantment that says at the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice a creature. If you do, look at the top X cards of your library, where X is that creature's mana value. You may put a creature card from among them onto the battlefield. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order.
Yeah. It's neat. It's cool.
I like this because it feels like the red version of Birthing Pod.
Yeah, for sure. Again, a lot of the things in this set are like purposefully not broken.
Yes.
I think. And this is one of them. I think it's a really cool card. It'll do some cool stuff, but I don't think it is super abusable or kooky crazy.
Yeah, I think it just does okay things.
Mm-hmm. Oh, this one though.
Life of the Party. So good. You go. Go.
I was just thinking I made you read like all of them up to this point. No. I should probably read some.
Get in there. Get it.
Life of the Party, 3 and a red. Creature elemental for a 0/1. First strike, trample, haste. That's a lot of keywords. Whenever it attacks, it gets +X/+O until end of turn, where X is the number of creatures you control. And when Life of the Party enters the battlefield, if it's not a token, each opponent creates a token that's a copy of it. The tokens are goaded for the rest of the game. Now, Alex, I have a question for you.
I would like to be goaded with the sauce. I am a quirked up white boy. I love this card.
I was going to ask that they are goaded for the rest of the game, but do they have the sauce?
Yeah, no, it's great. The number of
this card's crazy. Yeah.
Think about this for a hot second. Multiple combat steps.
Yep.
Think about this for a second.
And yes, +X.
Yeah. You can also flicker it to keep making more of them. It's just pure chaos. I really like.
That's the thing that I want to do with this. Yeah, is like somehow blink them, make my opponents have like 4 of them. Yeah. Each time one of them attacks, they each get +4 or whatever, right? And then just make my opponents fight each other.
Yeah, it's just good stuff. First strike, trample, haste is maybe my favorite set of keywords on a creature to have.
Oh yeah.
Let's keep moving on with Mezio-Mager.
Mezio.
4 and
Sorry.
4 and a red for a Vashino Rogue that says, whenever Mezio-Mager attacks, exile the top card of each player's library. You may play those cards this turn, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast those spells. Blitz for 2 and a red for a 3/3 body. I like this.
Yeah, it's mini Itali.
Yeah.
It doesn't let you cast them for free, but very cool.
But it can also come down on turn. It can also come down on turn 3, and well, no, because you need the mana to cast it. I'm not sure why this has Blitz. That's confusing to me, actually. Now that I look at that, because it doesn't have haste normally. Never mind. We got there.
We
walked through all the stages.
Wolfgar. Yeah.
Wolfgar, though.
Or again, Ishin. Yeah. Chase says that Alex does bust it down sexual style.
That's fake news. The fakest of fake news. Let's talk about Reign of Riches. 3 red for enchantment. When Reign of Riches enters the battlefield, create 2 treasure tokens. The first spell you cast each turn that mana from a treasure was spent to cast has Cascade.
This card's busted.
This card is busted. Holy buckets.
First of all, it's 3 mana. Like, it just refunds 2 immediately. And then it gives everything that you use the treasures on Cascade for some reason.
I hadn't seen this before, like, this second. This is...
This card's busted.
Perennial, I think? Anything that is trying to play a longer game of Commander is going to want this in it. I
agree with Arctic. Who asked for this card? Who was like, yes?
Right. If they get around to printing more treasure hate, more effective treasure hate as well. I don't hate this. I don't really like this in the current environment. It's a little too powerful, I think. On the other hand, since it's Cascade, you have to build your deck to take advantage of Cascade, so I don't think it does
right. Like
a lot.
it's not just free spells forever and ever, but it is really powerful.
In Jolene, that makes a ton of sense. And you know what?
Yeah.
BC Dino makes a great point. Remember when red was bad? I don't think that this is more absurd than if we saw Force of Will printed for the first time today. Right? I definitely don't think it's to that caliber. I think this is probably fine. I do think this is cool. I do think it's great in Prosper. I do think it's great in Jolene. It's fun.
Hell yeah.
A lot of red enchantments this set. Room Treasurer. 3 in a red for an Ogre Warrior. You want to take the rest of this?
Absolutely. It's a 4/3. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, create a treasure token. If this is the first or second time this ability has resolved this turn. Otherwise, you may pay X. When you do, Rose Room Treasurer deals X damage to any target.
That seems pretty great.
It's really powerful, yeah.
Yeah.
If you make 3, like let's say minimum you make 3 creatures or whatever, right? Have 3 creatures enter. You refund 2 mana and then deal X to something.
I like that you can unlock fireballs for the low price of 3 creatures enter the battlefield. Yeah. I think that's.
I think it's neat. I think it's well costed, like 4 mana for this on a creature. I like that it's not on an enchantment or an artifact, and I like that it is it is not just when a creature enters the battlefield, make treasures equal to its converted mana cost, and then you may pay X. And
absolutely. So real quick, Justin Havoc asks, do you think we need more treasure hate, or do you think they could just swap to tap treasure from now on and be fine? I would like them to swap to tap treasure from now on as part of being fine, but we also need hate because there's so much that does not come in tapped, and they can't really change that. It doesn't say non-token creature could be good. I agree. Almost all the alliance things don't say non-token, is my understanding, and I really like that they set that up that way.
I really like that, exactly.
If you blink it, does it reset? Yes. Objects only retain memory while they are in the same zone. If it comes out of the zone and re-enters the zone, anything that has tracking on it whatsoever, unless it is tied to some aspect of it that is not intrinsic to this. For example, there's the new Samurai that says if it's the first combat step, the turn doesn't forget that it's the first combat step, but Rose Room Treasurer would forget that it did it earlier. And so that, I think, is everything that got asked. So there we go. Just wanted to catch up on chat there for a second. So I just really like having Fireball anytime. That seems great to me. Seize the Spotlight. For 2 in a red sorcery, each opponent chooses Fame or Fortune. Each player who chose Fame gain control of a creature that player controls until end of turn. Untap those creatures and they gain haste. For each player who chose Fortune, draw a card and create a treasure token. That's a browbeat right there. I like that.
Yeah, I think the fact that at worst it's gain control of 3 target creatures, or I guess not even target, right? Just can gain control of your opponent's 3 worst creatures.
Yeah. Or if they, don't want to give you a creature, there you go, card and treasure.
I guess, can they just pick Fame without having any creatures in play?
There is nothing that would make them unable to do that, so you don't really want to cast this unless everybody's got a creature on the battlefield.
Yeah, that's kind of sad.
Yeah, split second, each opponent sacrifices all token artifacts or something would be great. Yep. Yeah, I really like Seize the Spotlight. I think it's a solid card. I think it makes a lot of decks. Spellbinding Soprano. 1 and a red for a human bard, which I gather is a new creature type? Oh, no, that's been around since Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. Oh, come on now. Whenever it attacks, instant sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast this turn, and it has Encore, which means exile this card from your graveyard for each opponent. Create a token copy that attacks that opponent this turn. If able, they gain haste. Sacrifice them at the beginning of the next end step, so you could go all the way down to -3. Interesting. I don't see this being a perennial favorite, but it's definitely interesting.
Yeah, not super powerful. It's like fine on the 2 mana 2/2, make something cost 1 less, and then maybe you encore it. It is a musician with Encore. That is funny. But yeah, cute, but not super powerful, I don't think.
Just a curiosity, I think.
Yeah.
Next up, Turf War. 4 and a red for an enchantment that says, when Turf War enters the battlefield for each player, put a contested counter on target land that player controls. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to a player, if that player controls one or more lands with contested counters on them, that creature's controller gains control of one of those lands of their choice and untaps it.
Yeah, you're just exchanging lands all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems neat.
Wow.
Yeah, again, seems neat. This is for sure an effect that we have not had prior to this, but
unless you're grabbing Gaia's Cradle, Maze of Ith,
right? Yeah.
Anyway, Spiteful Repossession, 4 and a red sorcery. Spiteful Repossession deals damage to each opponent who controls more lands than you equal to the difference. Then create a number of treasure tokens equal to the damage dealt this way.
Yeah.
Okay.
I saw a cute idea with this one that's like loop veteran explorer and whatever the like bounty card is or whatever, that like pay X into it and each player goes and finds X lands and then you Zurin orb all of your lands and play this to kill everybody.
Seems great. Seems really great, actually.
Seems funny, yeah.
All right, so that's the end of the red. I think we got green left, then multicolored. Well, we're going to do colorless artifacts, and then we'll do multicolored because that's where all the commanders are. But we're going to keep the foot on the gas. Let's start with Bribe Taker for 5 and a green. Rhino Warrior with Trample. When Bribe Taker enters the battlefield, for each kind of counter on permanents you control, you may put your choice of a 1/1 counter or a counter of that kind on Bribe Taker.
Yeah, I really like this dude. Again, in this counter type deck that is building itself with Parry the Pulverizer and whatever. And yeah, I don't think it goes in too many other decks. Like, I think you are definitely in the...
I will say that basically any deck that is running counters of any kind, having a 6 mana 7/7 with Trample isn't the worst thing in a lot of metas. I just don't see running it.
Yeah.
Let's talk
Agreed.
about Caldea Guardian? Caldea Guardian. Sure. 3 and a green for a human soldier 4/3. Whenever Caldea Guardian or another creature you control with mana value 4 or greater dies, create 2 citizen creature tokens with Blitz 2. Seems fine.
General, yeah. It's weird, right? Because its effect looks like it wants to be Aristocrat-y, but then it's creatures with mana value 4 or greater, which is like nothing
not
in that deck.
Not the same. Next up is
Crash
the Party. Crash the Party says 5 and a green for an instant with create a tapped 4/4 green Rhino Warrior creature token for each tapped creature you control.
Yeah. Double up your board, baby.
I like the pun in this because a group of rhinos is called a crash.
Fair enough.
Yeah. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Next up is Dodgy Jalopy, 2 and a green for an artifact vehicle with Trample. Dodgy Jalopy's power is equal to the highest mana value among creatures you control. Crew 3, Scavenge 2, and a green. Exile this card from your graveyard, put a number of 1/1 counters equal to this card's power on target creature. Scavenge only as a sorcery. I think this probably gets played for its scavenge cost a lot more than anything else.
Yeah. It's interesting, right? Because it is star power, its power is equal to the highest mana value even while it's in your graveyard, right?
Exactly.
So you're scavenging 3 to make it give something plus 10.
I think this goes
it's
in
mana value, though, right?
Yeah, I think this goes in your The Boulder deck.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Next up is Family's Favor. It's 2 and a green for an enchantment. Whenever you attack, put a shield counter on target attacking creature until end of turn it gains. Whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, remove a shield counter from it. If you do, draw a card. Protection or card draw. Seems fine. I do appreciate that it's not a May ability, so if you do get through, you do not have the option to keep the shield counter around.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that quite a bit.
Seems cool. Seems cool.
Let's talk about First Responder. 3 and a green for an Ogre Citizen with Vigilance 3/3. At the beginning of your end step, you may return another creature you control to its owner's hand. Then put a number of 1/1 counters equal to that creature's power on First Responder.
This one's weird. Typically, you want this kind of effect on against something with flash. something that's a little cheaper because you're trying to typically save the thing.
Have it trigger at combat maybe, but the fact that it's at end step is okay. Just kind of underwhelming. That being said, having things that automatically return to your hand and get you value is really good in the days of ETB effects. So maybe not the worst.
Again, it's return dockside. Give this thing +1/+1. And
we broke dockside! Yay!
We did it.
Oh my goodness. Let's talk about Killer Service. 2 and a green for an enchantment that says when it enters the battlefield, create a number of food tokens equal to the number of opponents you have at the beginning of your end step. You may pay 2 and sacrifice a token. If you do, create a Rhino Warrior. That feels really good.
This one's going in my
pick up a blitz creature. Krovax is right. Pick up a blitz creature.
Okay, we figured it out.
There it is.
We figured it out. Nice one.
Well done, Krovax.
Yeah. Killer Service is definitely going in my Academy Manufactor deck.
Yep.
Because it is 3 mana, make 3 foods, which is insane. When you have Academy Manufactors and doubling seasons in play.
Yeah.
Because then it's 3 mana, make, who knows, 400 probably.
Yeah, lots and lots. I like this quite a bit. It's fun. Let's talk about Next of Kin. 2 and a green for an enchantment or an enchant creature. When an enchanted creature dies, you may put a creature card you own with lesser mana value from your hand or from the command zone onto the battlefield. If you do, return Next of Kin to the battlefield attached to that creature at the beginning of the next end step. Step
Alex
down.
I wanted this card to be black so that I could put it in my Tetsamok deck to get my Tetsamok out of the command zone. But I can't because it is a green card. It's a cool one. I like the flavor, right? Like getting something from your hand.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The fact that it has to be lesser mana value, again, points to their decidedly making things not abusable.
Yeah,
in the set.
If this was equal to, it would be absurd. I do like the fact that they're playing around with command zone, though. Big fan of that. Park Heights Maverick, 2 and a green for a human soldier with the throne. I love the throne. 2/2 can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player or dies, proliferate.
Oh,
I love proliferate. Oh, I love proliferate.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I like that a lot, actually.
Check on that. Nope, it's enchant any creature, so you don't have to enchant your own creature. That's pretty good. I love Dethrone. I love Park Heights Maverick. This is just a solidly good card. This goes in a lot of different kinds of like Champion of Lambhold decks. Anything that's looking to proliferate, really. Let's keep moving. Scepter of Celebration, 2 and a green for an equipment that says equipped creature gets +2/+0 and trample. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, create a citizen. Create that many citizens. Excuse me.
So it is +2 trample and turns the thing into Tana, the Bloodsower.
Yes, it does.
It is 3 mana and 3 to equip, which is kind of expensive.
I think this is on par, pretty close at least, with like your Luxodon Warhammer, which is I think comparable. So I don't think that's that out of the realm of good taste. Let's move on to Vivian's Stampede. I saw this one earlier and I thought, wow, that's a lot of stuff. 4 green for each creature you control gains Vigilance, Trample, and Melee until end of turn. At the beginning of the next main phase this turn, draw a card for each player who has dealt combat damage this turn. I always wanted my overrun to scale with my number of opponents and also pay me off for letting me draw.
Yeah, this card's obscene.
It's
right. +3/+3 Vigilance, Trample.
Really good.
And I love that it's beginning of the next main phase, right?
Yeah.
Like, wow.
Scatterfang loves it. Yep. Okay. And you're vigilant, so you don't even need to worry about your Alpha Strike. That's the part that really gets me, is the vigilance on this. Melee is so good. Just all around great. I've been waiting all day for Boxing Ring. Boxing Ring is 1 and a green for an artifact. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, it fights up to 1 target creature you don't control with the same mana value. Create a treasure token. Activate only if you control a creature that fought this turn. Green should have access to treasure on this kind of basis, where they have to jump through hoops. If white has to contort itself into knots and make tokens and exile creatures and have them recast to draw a frickin' card, green can do this.
Yeah, I agree. I think this card's really neat.
Simple as that. This green treasure, big fan. Bootlegger stashers will come to find out if you watch the video later this week. Not so much. Another set booster exclusive. Love the art on this though. God, is that good? Just so evocative.
It just gets the people going.
It gets the people going. Look at the widescreen just real quick.
That's provocative, not evocative. Sorry.
Yeah, same thing. Anyway, let's keep moving on here. Get the colorless out of the way here real quick.
There is no new colorless cards.
No new colorless
There's
cards.
6 new artifacts, and then we're on to multicolored.
Perfect. Currency Converter for 1. It's an artifact that says whenever you discard a card, you may exile that card from your graveyard. 2 and tap, draw a card, then discard a card. Put a card exiled with currency counter converter into your graveyard. If it's a land card, treasure token. If it's a non-land card, black rogue. It's fine.
I think this is more bag shenanigans, right?
Yeah.
I think
It's just another type of convert things into other things card.
Yeah. I think it is weaker than...
Unquestionably weaker, but yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's neat.
Yep. It's definitely interesting. Let's talk about False
The fact that it's
Floor.
1 mana is cool, too.
Yeah, it is. Let's talk about False Floor. It's 4 mana for False Floor enters the battlefield tapped. Creatures enter the battlefield tapped. 2, tap, exile False Floor. Exile all untapped creatures. Activate only as a sorcery.
It's fixed Nevinrol's disc, I guess. It's super weird, right? Because...
I've always wanted to punish people for vigilance.
Well, so it makes their creatures enter tapped.
Yep.
So you have to let them untap in order to be able to exile them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it'll activate only as a sorcery, so you can't, like...
In response to combat, either.
Yeah, like, super, super weird. I think it's pretty expensive.
Yeah.
Like, maybe there's something cool you can do with this, but I don't know.
I would be hard-pressed to see what the cool thing is, to be honest.
Yep.
Let's talk about Gavel of the Righteous. It's 2 for an equipment. It says at the beginning of combat on your turn, put a charge counter on it. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each counter. Each counter, not just each charge counter, each counter. As long as it has 4 or more counters on it, equipped creature has double strike. Equip, pay 3, or remove a counter from Gavel of the Righteous.
Yeah, I think, again, if you've got some kind of way to put other kinds of counters or proliferate charge counters on this thing, equipping for free to give a thing +4/+4 double strike, that's amazing.
That's real good. I could especially see this in any kind of deck that's really trying to get aggro with counters and has like the doubling synergies. I actually think it gets kind of out of hand at that rate because 2 and free equip is a very low rate for what it does.
I agree.
I might actually put this in Aurelia since it's at the beginning of combat.
Yeah, extra combats interacts favorably. If I ever remake Ruhan, it's going in there. That's for sure.
There you go. Smuggler's Buggy. 4 for Hideaway
Smuggler.
4. Crew 2, 5/5 vehicle. Says whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may cast the exiled card without paying its mana cost. If you do, return Smuggler's Bunny to its owner's hand.
Very cool.
I actually kinda like that.
Yeah, the fact that it's Crew 2 for a 5/5, I like a lot.
Yep.
A 4 mana 5/5. And yeah, you can definitely go big isn't exactly the word that I want, but you know what I mean? Like, you can definitely get more mana value than 4 out of the card that you're hiding away.
You probably are. The fact that it's Hideaway 4 means you are going to whiff a not insignificant amount of the time. On the other hand, it's a 4 mana 5/5, which is probably fine.
I like that it returns itself too, right? Like, regardless. Or no, wait. You may cast... Oh, if you whiff, you can't even return it. Because it's if you do cast the exiled card,
Right,
return
but
it.
what I was talking about
Tragic.
whiff is like if you hit like Steve or something, you know?
Sure.
Something that you don't really need the help casting.
Cast the exile card. What if you hit 4 lands? Do you just cry forever?
Then you cry. Then you cry forever. But then you hit 4 lands and you deserve to cry forever. So
Yeah,
that's how it be. That's how it be.
Stop. Get down.
Yeah,
1 second.
Yeah, it's all good. Next up, we've got Weathered Sentinels. 3 for Defender, Vigilance, Reach, Trample. Weathered Sentinels can attack players who attacked you during their last turn as though it didn't have Defender. Whenever Weathered Sentinels attacks, it gets +3/+3 and gains Indestructible until end of turn.
I think this is an insane, whatchamacallit, like Pillow Fort-esque card, right? Just the fact that it's a 3-mana 2/5 at base with vigilance. Reach. It's got reach. Then if they attack you, they don't even have to have hit you, right? But if they attack you anyway, then it's a 5/8 indestructible vigilance trample.
It's so good. It's so good. I really like it. I especially like it if I see a player handing out goad. That isn't me. You know,
yeah, definitely.
If one of my opponents is playing goad, I really want to have that in my deck. Let's talk about Threefold Signal. If I remember right, this is also a set booster exclusive, but in any case, it's a 3-mana artifact that says when it enters the battlefield, scry 3. Each spell that you cast that's exactly 3 colors has replicate 3. When you cast it, copy it for each time you paid its replicate cost. You may choose new targets for the copies. Seems fun.
I think this one's cute.
I say niche.
Yeah.
You get like double charms.
I wish it were tap to add a mana of any color, use it to cast, use it only to cast a spell that is exactly 3 colors.
Yeah, having.
I think this is
having any kind of rock effect on this makes it actually playable. I think as it is, it's extremely narrow.
Yeah, like what are we replicating for 3 that's exactly 3 colors, right? Like you said, that some of the charms from this set or previous sets, but
well, why don't we go find out what we're casting with it?
Oh, true.
Anelho and hello and hello and hello. The
hello.
Blue,
and
black,
hello.
red for Vampire Assassin from the Maestros. It's Death Touch 1/3 with the first instant or sorcery spell you cast each turn has casualty 2. I like that. I like that they're playing with a new thing. Copy my spells. Yeah.
I really like that it is, again, purposefully the first instant or sorcery spell you cast each turn. Not broken, but you can use it on each turn.
Yes.
Right? So if you have enough, let's say 2/2 zombies or 2/2 rogues or whatever that other card makes for exiling somebody's graveyard or whatever, right? You can copy something every turn, which I think is where the value gets away from your opponents on this kind of card, right? Is like opting and copying it on somebody's turn, and then brainstorming and copying it on somebody's turn, etc., etc.
Yeah. I also really appreciate that you can choose. You have to choose when you cast it, because it means you can't do like okey dokes, like, oh well, I guess I'll casualty now that you've countered it, right?
Right. It's not each instant and sorcery has casualty to do this only once or something like that.
Exactly. Also, once again, if we start extra turning with this, it just gets out of hand.
Oh, I didn't even think about it. Yeah.
You did get it before there, Mini Jibble Flab. Well done. Let's move on. I think that's just a solid face commander. Nothing bad, nothing good, just real good. Let's see here. Henzi Toolbox Story. For black, red, green is a devil rogue that says each creature spell you cast with mana value 4 or greater has blitz. Its blitz cost is equal to its mana cost. Blitz cost you cast, cost you pay, cost 1 less for each time you cast your commander from the command zone this game. Sorry, that's word salad, and I had a hard time with it for a 3/3. So basically, the more times you drop Henzi out of the command zone, the cheaper your blitzes get, but only for creatures with mana value 4 or greater. I think that's to prevent people from doing shenanigans like, I guess, artifact creatures?
Right. Notably, it is not limited to the cards that Henzi gives blitz. So you just make a blitz deck around Henzi, cast him, he makes all of your blitz cards cost 1 less. I don't know how many there are.
At this point, we're probably getting up there. I would guess there's at least 20 to 25 that are generally printed, and he can give the other ones that way.
And then So I think that's probably a cool deck. This guy's probably at the head of a 99 somewhere.
Yep. He's fine.
Not for me, but
Blitz
seems cool. He's the Blitz commander.
Camise Obscura Oculus. 1 white, blue, black for a Cephalid Rogue 2/4. Whenever you attack, target attacking creature can't be blocked this turn. It connives. Then choose another attacking creature with lesser power. That creature gains double strike until end of turn.
Again, love the Obscura weird aggro Esper.
Right?
flavor, right?
I don't know
Like,
if
not exactly sure what's going on with this guy, like where
Exactly.
he's going, where they're going. Also, not a cephalid, but
very cephalidy. Look, he got web fingers. He's got like
beaks and tentacles,
no,
Alex.
no. We've
Beaks,
talked about this anyway.
and tentacles.
So I like this probably in the 99 of Raffine the most.
Absolutely.
Can't be blocked. That's kind of gross.
Oh, true.
Yeah, Muffins. We talked a little bit earlier about Raffine and how it like actually makes, sit back control punchy, kind of great. I like this. Again, I think this is probably a 99 in Raffine, but I could be convinced to see this as its own build.
Yeah. Again, the fact that it's two different creatures is kind of weird.
Yeah.
And yeah, kind of like Arctic says, the fact that this gives double strike is weird.
I think the fact that it has to be specifically with lesser power, not less than or equal to. So like if you put the first one on a 1x, you can't give it the double strike to anything relevant, right? But any case, we're getting down to the end of it here pretty quick. Next up is Kit Kanto, Mayhem Diva. 1 red, green, white. Cat Bard Druid. When it enters the battlefield, create a citizen. 1/1. At the beginning of combat on each player's turn, you may tap 2 untapped creatures you control. When you do, target creature that player controls gets +2/+2 and gains trample until end of turn. Goad that creature. 3/3. There's 21 more cards. We got to speed up, Elliot. 3/3. I like this. It's got Goad on it.
Yeah, Goat is cool. I think this is weird. I think it's weird that it's like aggro but defensive, right? Like you want to attack, but then each player's turn you get to untap 2 creatures, right? I'm thinking about abusing this with something that untaps lands or makes mana, right? Bloom Tender-esque abilities, kind of using it as like a mini Seedborn Muse.
I see what you mean. But it's, if I'm reading this correctly, it's tap 2 untapped creature you control, right?
I'm dumb as bricks. Yeah.
Okay. No worries. Yeah. We're all good. I still think this is a fairly decent card, especially if you get a bunch of tokens. Being able to go.
This card's so weird. Then why does it do this? Yeah. Okay. Never mind.
I think it's literally just to make other people fight each other. So that's
weird.
Interesting.
Weird one. Oh my boy.
Barry the Pulverizer. Talk about him.
1 Bant, green, white, blue for a 3/3 Rhino Soldier. When he enters the battlefield, put a shield counter on target creature. Whenever parry attacks target creature you control gains trample and gets +X until end of turn, where X is the number of different kinds of counters among permanents you control.
Good stuff.
Yeah, good stuff. I want to make, there's somebody from our Discord, Arctic said their name earlier and Carson. I forgot already. I think it's Carson. Yeah, Carson made a deck with 40 unique types of counters. And that's the deck. That's the deck, baby. Just put them on things and smack.
In the Spike chat, Jim's new nickname is Perry the Pulverizer. Next up.
Yeah, definitely not a adult toy. Anyway, Beamtown Bullies, 1 black, red, green for a 4/4 Ogre, Devil, Warrior with Vigilance and Haste. And this one's pretty cool. It's got tap, target opponent whose turn it is, puts target non-legendary creature card from your graveyard onto the battlefield under their control. It gains haste, goad it at the beginning of the next end step, exile it.
It'd be a real shame if I gave old Tony over there this Blightsteel Colossus now, wouldn't it?
I don't know if this is a spoiler or not, but this goes this kills all of your opponents with if it is equipped with Thornbite Staff, if that's the one that I think it is, and you give your opponents Bronze Bombshell. So
that's great.
So Thornbite Staff
Leveler
is
oh my god.
Oh, that one's nice. Okay, it's not Thornbite Staff. What's the one? It is Thornbite Staff. So it's Thornbite Staff gives equipped creature. Whenever a creature is put into a graveyard from play, untap this creature. You equip that to Beamtown Bullies. then Bronze Bombshell is when a player, it's a 4-mana 4/1 artifact creature. When a player other than Bronze Bombshell's owner controls it, that player sacrifices it. If the player does, Bronze Bombshell deals 7 damage to him or her.
And you just keep boop, boop,
So
boop,
you,
boop, boop, boop.
You tap, give them Bronze Bombshell, deal 7 damage to them. Bronze Bombshell dies, you untap, you give it back to them, they die, goes to the next player's turn, do it in their upkeep, goes to the next player's turn, do it in their upkeep.
Love it, love it, love it. Any case, let's talk about Kroos Defense Contractor. 1 green, white, blue. Cat Advisor, at the beginning of your upkeep, put a shield counter on target creature and opponent controls. Whenever you put 1 or more counters on a creature you don't control, tap that creature and goad it. It gains trample until your next turn on a 2/4 body. I love goading.
Yeah. I love that Bant, they are what's the actual name? The brokers in this set, right? And I love, this kind of cool politics sub-theme they've got going on.
The only thing I don't like about this is that it's not in green-black, so we can't do it with -1/-1 counters. Or at least not very easily.
Yeah, fair enough.
Parnesse, the Subtle Brush, 2 blue, black, red for a Vampire Wizard 4/4. Whenever you or a permanent you control becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, counter that spell unless that player pays 4 life. Whenever you copy a spell, up to 1 target opponent may also copy that spell. They may choose new targets for that copy.
This one's weird. It's Grixis, so you can do it with like Knowledge Pool again, but not like Dranith Magistrate, and also it just doesn't actually do anything.
It looks like they're trying to go for chaos.
Right.
But
yeah, I don't like it.
No. Just kind of weird. Fabine, Boss's Confidant. 3 red, green, white. Cat Advisor. Creature tokens you control have haste. 3/6. Parlay. At the beginning of combat on your turn, each player reveals the top card of their library. For each land card revealed this way, make a citizen. Then creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn for each non-land card revealed this way. Then each player draws a card.
Love it. More overrun for your token decks.
Like you needed more overrun. I do like that.
Hell yeah.
I do like that it's up at 6 mana for all the things it does. You got Concordant Crossroads on this. You've got what if everyone punched each other, and it's a 3/6, and the tokens you make also get to punch. So seems pretty good to me. I do think you can do some stuff with that, but I don't know what the shenanigans are, so we're not going to get into it. Tivit, Seller of Secrets, 3 white, blue, black for a Sphinx Road, flying, ward 3, Council's Dilemma. Whenever it enters the battlefield or deals combat damage to a player, starting with you, each player votes for evidence or bribery. Oh my god, it's Commander Mechanic. Our Commander Mechanic? We have not lost our minds yet, although I have no idea how you do this on a weekly basis. For those of you who don't know, because our Commander Mechanic is here, I just want to mention real quick that tomorrow night on twitch.tv/CNC Power Hour at, I believe, 7 o'clock Central Time. I might have gotten the time wrong on that, so I'm sure Chris, our Commander Mechanic, will correct me. There will be a roundtable featuring so many content creators that I know that you've heard of, including Rachel Weeks, Commander Mechanic, Claby, all sorts of wonderful folks that you should go and hear more cogent thoughts than we've provided tomorrow night on Twitch. You can check that out. And you should also go over to youtube.com, Commander Mechanic, to get set upgrades for all of these decks. Real cool guy. Make sure you subscribe. We're getting close to 10,000, right, Chris? I want to see that 10K over there. So if you're not subscribed, get over there and do it. Any case, Tivit, Seller of Secrets, 3 white, blue, black. Flying Ward, 3 6/6, Body Council's Dilemma. Whenever it enters the battlefield or deals combat damage to a player, starting with you, each player votes for evidence or bribery. Evidence votes, investigate. Bribery votes, treasure tokens. While voting, you may vote an additional time. How cool is that?
Love it. Yeah. I'm a little disappointed this card isn't more colors for the politics deck that I want to make out of it.
Yeah.
But Esper is the main one for Council's Judgment and Council's Dilemma anyway, so you know.
It seems okay. I think it's got a lot of potential. I could see a lot of fun style of aggro Sphinx decks coming out of it. The fact that it's protecting itself at your 6 mana investment is what I'm most interested in, though.
Yeah, love Ward. Love Ward.
Big fan of Ward. Let's talk about Agent's Toolkit. Go for it, Elliot.
1 green blue for an artifact clue. Agent's Toolkit enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter, a flying counter, a death touch counter, and a shield counter on it. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may move a counter from Agent's Toolkit onto that creature, and then it has 2 sacrifice Agent's Toolkit, draw a card, because it is a clue. I love this card. Yeah, I think it's super cool. I love the fact...
Sorry, go ahead.
I love that it's like, once you use up all of the counters on it, it's still a clue. You just sack it to draw a card. Amazing.
I think my favorite part about it is it reminds me of, I think it's Graft from Old Simic, where you get to move 1/1 counters around from stuff that doesn't really need them. This is genius. The flavors win. Like you said, the fact that it cleans itself up afterwards is a win. This is great. This might be one of the best designed cards in the set.
Yeah, love it. I also love the concept of proliferating it and just never running out of those counters.
Well, you just killed me, so that's real good. Shield counters only prevent destruction. Sacrifice is not technically destroying, if I remember correctly. I think that's the separation there. Sorry, I'm probably just leaning away from my mic there, Bob, the Legendary 2. I apologize about that. We've been having issues with audio all day, but thank you for letting me know.
Alex and I are both very loud people, and neither of us is in the room with each other, so it's difficult to get us in tune.
Yeah, the real problem I'm having is that my audio trackers on my end say that we're both about equal most of the time, so I'm having a lot of trouble fine-tuning. Best Soul Nourisher, 1 green, white for a human citizen 1/1. Where have we heard that before? Whenever one or more other creature tokens with base power and toughness 1/1 enter the battlefield under your control, put a 1/1 counter on it. Whenever it attacks each other creature you control with base power and toughness 1/1 gets +X until end of turn, where X is the number of 1/1 counters on it. It's just pretty good.
Yeah, this is Champion of Lambhold.deck, right? You just make citizens and soldiers and whatevers, and then they get +1,000,000,000.
I do like 1/1 tribal. I think that this has the potential to be really fun to play, but only in metas where you're really not removing stuff, if that makes sense.
Right. Definitely. Yeah, so, getting this thing shot down is tough.
It's really tough. Next up is Broker's Confluence, 2 green, white, blue. Choose 3. You may choose the same mode more than once. Proliferate, great. Target creature phases out, great. Counter target activated or triggered ability, great. Great.
I am going to put this in my dumb, stupid Myojin Divinity counter deck and proliferate 3 times, Alex.
Yes, you are.
Hell yeah.
I'm going to use it to phase creatures out. Actually, you know what I'm going to use it for?
You're going to phase my Myojins out? You monster.
Nope. I'm going to stifle a Thassa's Oracle trigger with it.
Oh, poggers.
Very poggers. Next up is Cabaretti Confluence, 3 red, green, white. That's choose 3. You may choose the same mode more than once. Create a token that's a copy of target creature you control. It gains haste. Sacrifice at the beginning of next end step. Exile target artifact or enchantment. Creatures target player controls get +1/+1 and gain first strike until end of turn. You know the mode I love the most on this one?
Is it the token?
It's 6 mana.
Exile
Encore.
3 things?
Encore, actually.
Oh.
Yeah, 6 mana.
Fair.
Encore anything on the board that you control.
Yeah, it is. That's pretty cool.
Sneak in Blightsteel. 3 more Blightsteels.
That'll dead some people.
Yeah,
this is just another overrun as well. Just give your things +3/+3 and first strike.
That's 3 first strikes. That's 2 more than you need.
It's
great. I love Cryptic Pursuit. I saw Chris Mooney talking about this on Twitter. 2 blue, red for an enchantment. Whenever you cast an instant sorcery spell from your hand, manifest the top card of your library. Whenever a face-down creature you control dies, exile it if it's an instant sorcery card. You may cast that card until the end of your turn. Yeah, that's great.
Very cool.
You want to talk about manifest tribal? This is a staple in a form. Oh, I love it. It's really good.
Yeah.
Next up, Dendry. Okay, mini Gibbleflab. If you just real quick, if you Cabaret Confluence on a Crater Hoof that you've already cast, you might be the worst person I've ever met. Not you personally, just like the worst thing at the moment that you could possibly do. Just
I love it.
Oh my god.
Hell yeah. I love Crater Hoof Behemoth.
Dendry Kiln Editor in Chief. I want pictures of Spider-Man. 2 blue. White for Cat Advisor 2/2 enters the battlefield with your choice of 1/1 First Striker Vigilance. Whenever a non-token creature you control enters the battlefield, if it has counters on it, put the same number and kind of counters on that creature.
Love it. this is for sure going in the Parry the Pulverizer 40 counters deck, and it is hopefully getting all 40 of its counters on it.
Oh yeah.
And then you're just
Real big
dishing
fan.
them out to everybody.
What's your choice for the thing that you choose to put on Dendry to start?
I think it's interesting, right? Because I think Denry themselves would be best with either the +1/+1 or the first strike.
Yes.
But
I think Vigilance is more widely applicable, though, in my opinion. So
yeah, I think giving I would probably choose Vigilance, because then all of your other stuff will have Vigilance.
yeah,
And you can probably give it +1/+1 counters some other way. And
I do appreciate that this is the one time in the entire set that I think we've seen non-tokens, so that's probably a good call overall. The Ooze list just keeps getting better. You're absolutely right. Next up, let's talk about Grime Gorger 2 black-green for a horror 3/3 with menace. Whenever it attacks, exile up to one card of each card type from a defending player's graveyard. Put a 1/1 counter on Grime Gorger for each card discarded this way. I like this.
I have never seen this card, but this is a menace, that's for sure. What the heck? Exile up to one of each type, and it gets wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, this card's great. Holy moly!
Oh, you got Delirium over there? No, you don't.
Not anymore.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
real.
Wow. This card's nasty.
The first time I cast 2 lands. Oh my gosh, yeah, that is an achievement I would appreciate. A bunch of Nyx Bloom Ancients, that's pretty great. But yeah, Grime Gorger, I like, first of all, I like the art on this. I think this looks really good. Second of all, I love the fact that you're basically emptying out a graveyard, but in a way that's very fair. You're not just saying that's gone. You're taking out a lot of different pieces. I think that's really cool.
I think you definitely want to play that in some kind of like Sultai milling your opponent's deck or whatever, and just make it huge.
Just the thickest of leads. Next up is maybe the most memed on commander. Jolene. I'm begging on you, please don't spend my treasure. Whenever a player attacks one or more of your opponents, that attacking player creates a treasure token. If you would create one or more treasure tokens, get another one. Sacrifice 5 treasures. Put 5 counters on her. 2/2 for 4. What's to hate?
Well, I do hate that she gives your opponents treasures.
No.
I wish that line just wasn't on there. I just wish she was doubling season for treasures only.
No, I'm a huge fan of this, actually.
Yeah.
I
think it balances it a lot, right?
Yeah, exactly. I don't think this would be anywhere remotely near fair if it wasn't universal. The fact that it's universal, I think, does a lot for it. I also am a huge fan that we've been seeing more of these, like, pay a bunch of treasures do a thing. I really like that, because we've seen it on, I think it's Magda was one that we've seen it on recently, and now we're seeing it again. And so I want more of that. Wizards, please more. Next up is Life Insurance. 3 white, black for enchantment Extort. Whenever a non-token creature dies, you lose 1 life and create a treasure token. Extort's great. I like this card.
This card's crazy. Luckily for the entire world, this says non-token as well. Because otherwise this would be obscenely broken in Aristocrats decks.
But it also loses you life. I like that. I like that it is making you pay for it.
But you can extort. Yeah, right? Like, you have to extort to
you
get it.
You can go neutral, but you have to go all the way neutral, right? So that's pretty cool. Mastros Confluence, 3 blue, black, red. Sorcery, choose 3, may choose the same one once. Return target mono-colored instant sorcery card from your graveyard in your hand. Target creature gets -3/-3 until end of turn. Goad each creature target player controls. 6 mana, everyone's goaded. Hard to argue. I think this is fine.
I muted myself, my bad.
It's okay.
I love goad all of your opponents. I love give 3 things -3/-3, or 1 thing -9, blah blah blah. Like, yeah, I think this card is very cool. I think it's a little expensive if you're gonna be -9ing something.
Yeah,
but I don't hate it.
Yeah, it's okay.
Kind of wish it was an instant as well, maybe.
Oh, it's sorcery?
It's sorcery.
Oh.
Yeah, it's tough.
Oh.
It's tough.
Obscure.
This one's an instant, though.
Yeah, this one's an instant. Obscure Confluence for 4 mana value. 1 white, blue, black. Until end of turn, target creature loses all abilities, has base power and toughness 1/1. Target creature connives. Target player returns creature card from their graveyard to their hand.
I like 4 mana, triple. What's the card called? Yeah, triple trust down. Triple. Raise Dead.
Yeah.
Instant speed, triple Raise Dead is kind of kooky.
I mean, you could technically draw 3, discard 3, add 3 counters.
Yeah.
As a combat trick. That's not the worst.
Yeah, I like all the modes on this. I like that it is instant, and I like that it's only 4 mana.
It's pretty good. Oscar, Rubbish Reclaimer, 3 blue, black. For a human wizard, the spell costs 1 less to cast for each different mana value among cards in your graveyard, so it's probably pretty cheap. Whenever you discard a non-land card, you may cast it from your graveyard.
Yeah, this guy's like new Demir guy or whatever, right? Lazov? Not Lazov. I don't know.
Yeah.
We got a guy that was like kind of like this, right? Like Liev or Lear, maybe Lear from
this
whatever.
Is, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is basically just madness, right?
Yes. Yeah,
why is
it is
this, yeah.
Yeah, why isn't it madness? You're right. It is effectively. Wait, whenever you discard an online card, you make. So it's a trigger, right? It's not, oh, I discarded this, I can cast it whenever. It is, I discarded it, I can cast this right now.
Yep.
Yeah, why isn't this just madness?
I'm confused about it too.
I'm pissed.
Yeah. It's fine. I like it. Next up, this is one of my favorite cards that I've seen spoiled. Prosperous Partnership. 1, red, white. And it's not because it's Boros, but because of some of the flavor in this. When it enters the battlefield, make 2 things. Tap 3 untapped creatures you control, create a treasure token.
I like it.
Yeah, they have to have a baby before they can make a treasure. Anyway,
that's cute.
It's just cute. I like that it makes stuff. I like that it does stuff. It's pretty nice. It also is a good way to set up for Halo Fountain, because you can tap 5 sets of 3 to get the 5 mana you need to tap Halo Fountain and win.
Ooh, nasty. Yeah.
Very nasty.
Probably also going in my Academy Manufactor deck, because tapping 3 untapped creatures to make 900 treasures seems cool. Seems cool and good.
Riveteer's Confluence, 2, black, red, green. These 3 modes are draw a card, lose a life, deals 1 damage to each creature and each planeswalker you don't control. Put a land card from the hand or graveyard tapped onto the battlefield. Sorcery speed, but I think these modes are a little bit more impactful for their sorcery speed, because this is Anger of the Gods without the exile. This is triple growth spiral. No, you don't draw, but you can also draw and lose a life if you want to. So.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little weird, right? I think, again, 5 mana, sorcery speed. It is a little sad, but the modes are good, like you said. I think this is a perfectly fine card.
I just need to address a question that Arctic asked me real quick, and that is, all babies are criminals. Thank you.
Jesus.
Next up is Cyrix, Carrier of the Flame, 2 black, red for a Phoenix tribal leader. 3/3 with flying and haste. At the beginning of each end step, if a creature left your graveyard this turn, target Phoenix you control deals damage equal to its power to any target. Whenever another Phoenix you control dies, you may cast it from your graveyard.
Great.
Chase will tell you, and I think there's a clip somewhere, that I suggested that Phoenixes were due for a Lord. I'm glad they added black to it, because even though Phoenixes are traditionally a red tribe, without those recursion factors, because the recursion factors for Phoenixes are all over the place, it's just Phoenix with set mechanic, without the black to get them out of the yard, I don't think this does anything. I think this is good design.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it's nice value.
Absolutely.
I don't think it's like absurd or like amazing. It's just okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's talk about Vazi, Keen Negotiator, 2 black, red, green. For a human advisor with haste, target opponent creates X treasure tokens, where X is the number of treasure tokens you created this turn. 3/3. Whenever an opponent casts a spell or activates an ability, if mana from a treasure was spent to cast it or activate it, put a 1/1 counter on target creature, then draw a card. I don't like this.
Yeah, it's a weird one, right? Like, you're giving your opponents mana to draw cards.
Yeah.
It's like interesting politics-ish, but not super exciting.
I just don't want to.
I like that it's haste,
yeah,
right, with its tap ability. Like, it can do something right away. This thing's not very likely to eat removal or anything like that.
I guess my biggest problem with it is I wish this was a punishment for them and not a benefit for me. If this was a punishment for them, like whenever an opponent casts a spell or activates an ability, if mana from a treasure was spent to cast it or activate it, they lose 2 life and discard a card. If they can't, they sacrifice a creature.
It especially in Jund, right? It feels like it should be a punishment to them. The fact that this is put a +1/+1 counter or draw a card, like this should be a broker, right? This should
Well,
be
I
a
mean,
banned card.
it does both.
Flavor.
It does both 1/1 counter and draw a card. So it's not
Right, but I mean because
yeah.
right, because it's doing that, because it's counters and drawing a card benefiting you, I feel like it should be a broker card.
Yes.
Whereas as a Reveteer card, it should be punishing them.
Yeah.
Or it should be a Maestro's card punishing them or something.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. No,
Yeah. Weird flavor on that one.
I also like Chad is talking about wish it scaled. Like the more the treasures they use.
Right, it only draws you one card per spell. Yeah, I think it should just be whenever an opponent sacrifices a treasure, right?
Yeah.
Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature and draw a card.
Yeah.
Ooh, baby.
Any case, folks, we actually have come to the end.
We did finally make it. 3 hours later.
Well, we talked a lot. Chat talked a lot. I had a good time. So, folks, I don't know if I've mentioned it, but obviously we're the Spike Feeders. Thanks for coming and checking us out tonight. Obviously, you know where we're at because we're here on YouTube. But if you don't follow us on Twitter, follow us on Twitter. If you're not subscribed to the Patreon, you should really consider it. We've got a lot of good content, including a video that will be going live for our patrons literally 5 minutes after we end this one, which is our full set review. That's all the stuff that's not commanders, that's not in the commander sets, that's non-legendaries. So all the rest of the cards, me, Elliot, and even Jim. We convinced Jim to talk about cards for one time. It was a good time. I really want to thank you all for hanging out with us tonight. If you have yet to like the video, please do. If you have yet to subscribe, please subscribe. We really appreciate pushing those numbers up. We really appreciate all your support. In the meantime, I can't think of anything else I want to say. Elliot, you got anything before we take off?
No, yeah, I think you nailed it as usual.
All right. Well,
thanks for hanging out with us on this journey.
Yeah. If you're watching this after coming from the other set review, you just watched the other set review, so thank you. But if you haven't watched the other set review because you're not from the future, go and watch the other set review. It's got the rest of the New Capenna stuff, and stick around for one of our gameplay videos. Those are now every other week, in case you didn't know. We've really increased our release schedule, so we appreciate you sticking with us through this whole pandemic thing. Any case, we'll catch you folks next time.